So anyway, hi. How's it
Nobody
going?
loves ones more than I do. What's up? What's up? What's up? Is my volume okay?
I hear you fine. I'm assuming they can hear you fine. It's probably better than mine. Although you are using my
Okay.
old mic, which means you
The
need to
Blue
upgrade.
Yeti?
Yeah. Apparently
What
that's
do you
not
use?
cool anymore. Now everyone uses the SMB 57, whatever the hell, even though it's probably the exact same sound quality. So
Interesting. My issue is my it peaks too much. But
whatever
I'm
you
probably just I gotta
whatever your
I just
issue
gotta
is that
fix it
when you
on
talk about your mic and touch it, it turns off and no one can hear you.
Yeah, that too. Oh, that too. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, no, you're good. You're good. You came back.
Okay. It's very finicky, yeah.
Okay. So anyway, hi. I saw you on Destiny arguing about Sam Hyde, and I was super frustrated by the conversation. I was like, this guy doesn't get it. I want to say something, but I can't because I'm not there. I'm watching you on YouTube. Um, and then I reached out. You reached back. We chatted. We set something up finally. And I've been watching a bunch of your stuff, So since Monday, I have like watched 20 of your videos, which
Oh,
are shorter than
nice.
mine, so it's easy to get through them. I just double speed them at work. I have read your entire Substack. I like your legal politics stuff. I think it's funny. I think it is really well edited
Okay.
and good memes all around. Um,
But
I hate all your ideas. I
all of them,
like
really?
95% of like
All right, dude,
everything. Like and
let's
and
do
I don't
this.
use
All right,
hate.
hit
Hold
me.
on. I don't use the word hate lightly. I don't hate you, by the way. This is not personal. This is not an ad hom. Like maybe I don't like you once we get to know each other, but like
That's
just
fair.
just just
That's
as like
fair.
what I've seen written.
Listen,
Um,
this Valentine's date is starting off nicely, all right? I want it. Honesty is the best way to. Honesty is the best
I
form of
you
communication.
you hit
Okay.
them blunt. You get everything out, and
Amen.
then you end up in a good
Amen.
spot. But or this is going to start a
We'll see.
300-year long internet beef. I don't know, but let me say this: when I say
All right, hit
hate,
me.
all right, like I think Michael Knowles and Matt Walsh and the Daily Wire crew are like bad people. All right, like I think they
Okay.
spread awful ideas. And like when I read what they have to say, like it really upsets me because I'm like, oh, you are condemning and you want to hurt the people in my life. You're not doing that for the most part, I would say. But
Yeah. Well, certainly when I
you're
push back against Michael Knowles and Matt Walsh, I do the opposite
yes,
of that.
exactly, because you're a enlightened centrist, which we'll get into. But let me say this just to
Yeah.
just paint a picture in your brain. A friend and I have been reading your Substack together, and we were yelling at each other, not because of a difference of opinion, but because of what you were saying. And because the other person was reading your words out loud, it enraged us to the point where we were like yelling at each other. Um,
Oh, this is good. All
yeah,
right.
so I think your ideas are like really, really, really bad, and I've prepared like a whole section of notes to
Oh,
go over.
well,
Um,
I'm honored.
yes, well, you shouldn't be
This is
because
my strategy. Just put shit out there,
no, but that's a
and
bad
then smart
strategy.
people,
I don't
but
know.
then smart people can come and critique them, and it's fun.
That's what here. Well, this wasn't where I was going to start off, but this is where we'll start off. You say that you like
Okay.
attract intellectually curious people, right?
Do I think I attract intellectually curious
I
people?
believe you've said that. You're like, I think people who are intellectually curious are drawn to my ideas.
I think, yeah, people who watch me, my type of videos, Destiny type videos, even your type of videos, are on a skewed
Even
end of the
mine.
personality distribution.
Yes.
Yes, they'd be high
Um,
in openness.
okay. No, I see where you're coming from there. I'm approaching this, and when I say I read all your stuff and watched these videos, I was not curious about what you were saying. I was upset by what I was reading, and not like in an
Okay.
offended, like I'm a triggered lib kind of way, because I am one of those cringe liberal atheists that you have described in the past, but more just like,
Yes. Much to my chagrin,
what
I
the
somewhat
fuck are you
regret that.
talking about?
Okay,
So let's start
what?
off with your
Yeah,
most
go
recent
ahead.
Substack. Let's jump right into it. So you wrote this article on USA.
Well,
Yeah,
okay, we can get into that because I'd be curious. Maybe can we start with the deeper idea, just the concept of centrism, the concept of
sure.
both the right and the
Try to
left?
sell me on it, and then I'll tell you why I think it's dumb.
I would never try to sell anything to anyone who comes out saying, "I'm enraged by the words you say." I'll
I'm
tell you. I'll tell you what
I'm
I believe. I
frustrated
mean,
by the words you say. I wouldn't say
okay.
enraged. so much because even like I did say it, excuse me,
Okay.
but like I'm not like, grr, he just gets on my nerves. I'm just like, come on, man, come on. Like that's
Got it.
me every sentence I'm reading. I'm like, come on, but
Okay.
we'll get into this. But please, like, try to sell me on this.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
I
telling you
think
that because I'm explaining that I'm biased. All right, I'm a very
that's
biased
fair.
person, and you're
I
probably not going
appreciate
to
it.
change my mind. But maybe you will. Maybe you've got these
That's
great
fine.
ideas.
No, no, no.
And this is your last chance to tell me that it's all a joke and you're being ironic, by the way, because then I will be like, this is hilarious. You fucking got me, masterful
No,
troll. Good, sir.
I have to save that for court. Yeah, my basic general approach to politics or ideas in general is the correct perspective on any philosophical or political issue is arrived at by synthesizing quote unquote right wing considerations and left wing considerations. Like any issue, you take immigration. Well, do we want to have completely open borders? No, I'd say that's going too far. That's too far left. Do we want to have an ethno state where no immigration occurs? No, that's going too far right. So the answer is a synthesis of both considerations.
All right, can I jump in yet, or do you want to keep talking? Because I already got problems.
Okay. Yeah, all right.
Okay, so you're taking two things that are like not even in the Overton window of like what the current political climate is talking about, like Nick Fuentes and like a far left radicalist, and saying, well, both of these things I don't agree with, so I am now going to align myself in the center of the two parties, neither of which are talking about these things.
How do you define what's within the Overton window? What do you
Like
determine
anything
as-
that's politically viable in any sense of the word, as in not an ethno state and not open borders.
politically
Neither
viable over what time period?
over.
You don't think there's any chance
in the
that
next 10 years, maybe like in the next 5 years, like in any realistic conversation anyone's having about politics today, no one is saying, all right, guys, let's go to Congress and push our ethno-state amendment.
you don't think there's a significant right-wing ethnocentric agenda that is a
There
serious
is
danger
but
at this point in
to
politics?
define your entire politics as centrism between these two things, which are very fringe and not being like debated on the main stage, where there are mainstream political opinions about Democrats or Republicans that come in and have like actual, abortion debates, gun control debates, like any of this stuff. It's just like, well, actually, I'm in a center because of these two fringe crazy people, regardless of how big of a percentage they are of the population or the political climate. Like that seems insane to me. And also the idea that because these two things are, on opposite side of the spectrum, meaning that you can thus not get into the Democrat or Republican side of that. You have to be in the middle. Like I'm a Democrat and I disagree with both of those things. Why am I a centrist?
Okay. What are you progressive?
I'm a progressive, but I'm not pro open borders and I'm not pro ethno.
First off, I'm not a centrist. I never call myself a centrist.
You call yourself a radical centrist.
Correct. Which is very different from centrist or moderate, because moderate centrist is like someone who defends, what the kids call the neoliberal status quo, which I don't think is very good. This libertarian economics, kind of corporatist type stuff with like mild social liberalism. It's like, no, I believe that the radicals on the right and the radicals on the left have good ideas to offer, unfortunately. And what I'm trying to do is rob those good ideas from them, so all they're left with is the complete useless nonsense bullshit.
Right, but
the
why define yourself
ethnocentrism.
based on these radicals that aren't even a majority of either side of this conversation? Like, let's say this. I'm coming from this as a Democrat, right? I see a lot of crazy stuff on the left. I see a lot of crazy stuff on the right. However, I have principles that align me with what the Democratic Party advocates for. Why would I say I'm a centrist when I don't align with...
I'm not asking you to.
Well, why do you say you're a centrist?
You should not. Based on how this conversation is going, the first 2 minutes.
Proverbial you. Why do you say you're a centrist? If this is how somehow like these two radical sides have pushed you into the center, and not, hey, I have principles and they align with these politicians.
It's not pushed. Okay, this is not a very controversial idea to say that it's Hegelian dialectics. It's the golden mean. It's the idea that the correct perspective lies in between two extremes.
Why?
You're not because that's just how it is.
No, you just say it's how it is. That's circular. What do you mean? Why is this the best perspective?
Okay, hold on. Let me if I can get 30 seconds to frame what I think is the disagreement here. Okay. Because I explained, you have the extreme right-wing position, right? No immigration, ethno-state type stuff, and the extreme left-wing position, which is open borders. So the correct answer is somewhere in between. Now, you may say, well, now hold on. What you're saying is, I don't disagree with that in principle, like in some abstract philosophical sense. What you disagree with is, you think that those extremes are not politically relevant at this point to warrant even having that discussion, and that I'm just out here sort of
Not just that,
kinda,
but also that,
okay.
yes, obviously, if you don't agree with either of these radicals, no matter what, your answer is going to be in between here. But to then call that centrism as if there aren't several
I'm not
thousand
calling it.
degrees, radical
I'm not calling
centrism,
it.
whatever you want to call it,
Well,
is
but
like,
even that, the first off, those are memes. Radical moderate anti-centrism, enlightened centrism, radical centrism, PF Jungianism, cultural centrism. They're all just words that I put out there to describe basically the far right is insane and should be pushed back on, and so should the far left.
okay.
And I don't see how that's even remotely controversial. Now you would say, well,
it's
that means I
not,
have
but
no
that's a very
principles.
well, no, I wouldn't say that. But let's pivot off of there to, okay, you say the far right should be pushed back on. One of my big sections here in my document is you platform Stephen Wolfe. And for those of you who don't know, Stephen Wolfe is a Christian nationalist.
Yes,
he is,
I platform Stephen Wolfe.
Yeah, hold on, I'll go on. I'm not saying like, oh, just because you did. But you know, like you can talk to people. I'm not saying like, oh, just censor anyone I disagree with. You platform Stephen Wolfe, who's a Christian nationalist who writes a book about how he wants essentially a Christian ethno-state. And your major pushbacks on him seem to be that he doesn't believe in evolution, and that
that's one.
He thinks
that's not the biggest one, though.
The biggest one was the idea of what makes an American, right? Was that the biggest one, or what would you say the biggest one was?
The biggest one was the fact that he believes in blasphemy laws and he's anti-free speech.
That was the biggest one for you. Okay, but you didn't push back on his reluctance to admit that a black person should be considered American. You didn't push back on the fact that he's vehemently anti-gay and says that queers are the enemies.
Because now you're just straight lying.
I can show you. I have the timestamps.
Pull the clip.
Yeah, let's pull the clip. Well, first defend yourself, because first of all, if you don't, I don't think you. Okay, let's pull the clip. Let's go. I'm gonna move.
This is not at all how I thought this conversation was gonna go. By the way.
Yeah. By the way, if you're considering this an ambush, I'm sorry.
It feels like it.
I'm only.
But this is on
presenting
YouTube.
Stuff. Oh, if you would
fucking nitty gritty.
What?
This is how it works.
No. I'm saying I'm not gonna like hit you with some fucking studies to be like.
You just said.
Actually,
what did I say? I didn't push back on the fact that he said that. What did he say?
That he was reluctant to consider black people as Americans. Yeah.
Okay, please show me the timestamp, because I was in that conversation and we went over this twice. And if I had a schizophrenic break in the middle of the conversation and I heard the opposite of what he said.
No, so you did. You obviously pushed back on the idea because you were.
Which idea?
The idea that a black person or like America is not just ideas. No. I don't think you think that. I'm saying that you just kind of let him pontificate about this and didn't really do anything about it.
Okay, what did he say that he said? Because
all right, I got the timestamp.
Go ahead.
Let's bring up the video. We got it. But in the meantime, did you know that if someone refers to black people as blacks, that's like a very good consideration that he's probably a huge racist.
Okay,
right?
Sure. I don't believe that.
You don't think so?
No.
Do you refer to black people as blacks?
No, I refer to black people as the people I love more than any other race.
Well, I also
black people more than I do.
Well, hold on. Now we got to talk about whether or not I love black people more than I'm trying to right now. It's ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous that you brought this guy on who is vehemently anti-gay sex and hates gay people, and you didn't even mention this in your platforming of this person. Meanwhile, saying the far right freaks.
First, let's clear this up. Yep. First, we'll clear this up.
Hold on. Did you link to it? I have your Substack open. Did you link to it in there or no?
The conversation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll just do it here. PF Jung. Stephen Wolfe. Don't know how to spell his name. And the timestamp is.
It says.
Here we go. Do you have my stream open? I don't want to have to mute myself twice here, but here, let me. You have the link open, right?
I'll just YouTube your stream here.
Right, but you're gonna hear me twice. Is that okay?
I'll mute you on my end. Wave when you want me to turn the volume back up. Okay?
Well, you'll hear me on the stream say turn the volume back up. All right.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. I've got you here. All right. 48:36. I believe is the time.
Go ahead.
Let's go.
Which I agree with. The question is who constitutes that people? So, for example, if someone, I'm in favor of ending birthright citizenship. I think it's kind of ridiculous.
I did want to talk about that too. The whole idea of ending birthright citizenship. That's separate to that, but I don't think that's very centrist. If you feel free if you want to jump
What?
in on this. The idea you're in favor of ending birthright citizenship. That doesn't seem very centrist. It's like incredibly right wing.
Hey, let us get to the point where
Okay, we'll come
you
back to it. We'll
claimed
come back
that
to
I
it.
didn't.
All right.
Okay, it's the idea that someone just comes here as a kid, and now that they're 100% American. I mean, legally they are because of birthright citizenship, but there is a process of assimilation that I do agree takes generations potentially. Okay, but so could an American ethnicity? I agree with you. I think it should be sort of a political project to articulate and identify what the American ethnicity is. You're saying it is multiracial, right? Like Black Americans, Polish Americans, and Anglo Protestant Americans are all equally ethnically American, assuming they've been, they grew up like if those three different genetic lineages all grew up in the same neighborhood, and went to the same kind of church, they're all still one American ethnicity, right?
This is one where I'm not 100%. I would say that blacks in America constitute an American ethnicity. I just don't think it would. I'm just not sure that would be that then white American or that white Americans would be part of the same sort of ethnicity. So I wonder if there's like sub ethnicities. Because that there's, and this is not due to race, it's due to very significant cultural factors. So
sure,
I know there's some on the right who want to say, blacks are not Americans because they're black. And so I'm like, blacks have been here from the beginning. And so I think given my own theory of ethnicity, like this is their place. But there is a type of I want to say ethnocentrism, but there is a type of what's the word I'm looking for? There's a clear distinction between the sort of black cultural tradition in America and pretty much everyone else.
Sure. I mean, they literally.
So I think just as an ethnographer would be right to say that there is a sort of there is a difference between them and the rest.
Yes.
But not in terms of, but still fundamentally American. That would be ridiculous to deny that, I think.
Okay.
All right. So do you think that going through that, there was no alarm bells of, yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Did that not raise any alarm bells in your head of wow, this guy's incredibly reluctant to call black people Americans, and he had to distinguish an entire,
said that he just said they're fundamentally American. He said they're different ethnicities.
Oh yeah, he did. So if I were to ask you, hey, are black people American, what would you say?
I'd say, no shit, Lamar Jackson is not an American.
Right.
What are you, an R
right.
card?
And so when you ask a Christian nationalist who has incredibly right-wing radical views, wants to create a Christian ethno-state, hey, are black people Americans? And he has a 10-minute rambling answer about how, well, I mean, I don't really, I'm a little, and then by the end of it, he's like, well, yeah, but obviously they're here. So I guess it's fine. Does that not, you don't push back on that at all?
No,
it's just
because unlike you, I listened to 10 hours of interviews with this guy. And I know what his point was. And his point was he defines ethnicity. He defines ethnicity unlike the way that other people define it. He defines it as it's a combination of culture or something like that. Okay. And so when I said, that's why I said, are Irish people a different ethnicity as well? And he would say, that's what my point was. I'm a Polish immigrant. That's a different ethnicity from an American who's been, or what do you call it, a WASP who's been here for whatever, 6, 7, 8 generations like his family was. And I was asking, do you believe, because I specifically wanted to call him on this, do you believe that black people are part of the American ethnicity or not? And that's what we got to the point about sub-ethnicities. And if you read my Substack article,
I did.
That's my whole point.
No, your point. I don't think
black
you
culture
don't think
American culture? Is black culture
yes,
American culture?
Of course.
Okay, but I'm an American, so am I part of black culture?
You are part of American culture, which includes black culture.
But I'm not part of black culture.
I don't know. Are you? Do you listen to rock music? Okay. Do you listen to black
culture?
culture? Do you participate in it?
Okay. Is it racist to say that there's black culture?
No.
As a thing?
Do you think that's what he means?
That's literally what if you listen.
Is that all he means? You think that's all he? Yeah. No, I listened to the whole conversation. Do you think all he means is, well, black people have different cultures?
You know what? See, this is okay. Let me hold on. I gotta calm down for this.
Sorry. By the way, it's been about a very hard week for me, and it has nothing to do with you. So if I'm being a little too aggro over you, it's only because I was reading your Substack.
Well, I'm presuming. Okay, fair enough. I didn't hear the last part you said.
It's only because I was reading your Substack. No, it's a lot of
fine.
stuff's going on, and
Okay.
and that's fine.
That's fair. Okay. What I will say is, on this issue in particular, there's a great irony here, because I have a good friend. He's a business partner who is a black Catholic Christian nationalist. I told him, and me and him talk pretty regularly about all kinds of topics.
Yeah, no, you mentioned him actually in your Substack. Right?
Yeah, right. And because before I think it was the day of, before I interviewed Stephen Wolf, I told him, my friend, I said, I'm talking to Stephen Wolf. He goes, that guy's a fucking racist. I was like, oh shit, okay. Now I knew that he said he wants a white ethno state. Now I'd heard him talk about American ethnicity, and he expressed like, well, if there's in interracial marriage, you'll find problems that are not there in marriage between people of the same race. So I'd heard him talk about this, and I was like, fuck, what does he believe? Hence me bringing him on to ask.
You still there? Can you guys hear him?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay, you're back. Go ahead. You heard him talk about this, was the last thing I said.
Yeah, so I brought him on to ask him directly, are black people part of the American ethnicity? And do you agree that all of the fucking freaks who say, well, we need to deport black people, or black people are not true Americans or whatever, like the Thomas Rousseau head of Patriot Front, do you agree they're wrong? And he said, and if you listen to the end...
He said, I guess black people, as I define it, as in they have a history here, and that's what I consider to have... be an American. That's what makes someone part of a country, is that they have a history there.
All right. Because we're just going to be speculating on what's going on in his mind. He could be I just told you, my black Christian nationalist friend said this guy's racist. So, and he could very well be, and maybe he is.
Okay.
And that's why I brought him on to ask him. So are you saying that because I didn't challenge him in the way that you particularly wanted to?
Yeah, that you bring him on and kind of validate ideas and say, hey,
okay,
you know what? Sure, that is a cool idea, Mr. White Nationalist who wants to kick out everyone. Yeah, that's bad. I would say that's bad. And it's not centrist. It's very much like hey, I am very open to your very right-wing ideas.
Yeah, I have a very high tolerance for bullshit. And what you just said, yeah, right. What you just said is, I enabled a guy who wants to kick out white people. When I just specifically asked him, are those people who want to kick out black people freaks? He said, yeah, that's ridiculous. They're not here.
But calling people that want to kick them out freaks. By the way, I think your biggest gripe you said was that he's for blasphemy laws. You're a free speech absolutist. But in that same conversation, you also say, hey, I would be okay with deporting 1,000 Marxists and bringing in 1,000, Chinese Christians, right? Which is...
Yeah, I thought that was hilarious.
I
would gladly deport...
Is that free speech absolutist, though?
Wait, repeat what I said?
You said, I would gladly deport 1,000 Marxist, communist, college students to bring in 1,000...
No, that's not what I said. You're purposely leaving out the most important detail.
What's the detail? I might have forgotten
I said I would gladly deport 1,000 white college communist Marxists.
White. Yeah, sure.
Hence proving, and he's, and replace them with 1,000 Chinese Christians.
Well, he didn't.
And he said, yeah, that'd be great.
Actually, he said, well, I don't know. The Chinese have their own problems, but I guess, and he kind of reluctantly agreed with you.
Yeah, they're 1,000 Christians. Okay,
but hold on. But I'm not talking about him. No,
stop.
I'm pointing at you in this one.
No, stop. Because I'm not going to do
free speech.
I'm not going to have what happened on Destiny's thing. Stephen Wolf. I reject his beliefs about free speech.
Okay.
And I reject if he is
keep cutting out.
hiding his power level.
He's back. You're back. It's just like for seconds at a time. It might be on my end. I'm sorry, guys. If it's happening, someone say something in the chat so I know it's just me being stupid and let him talk, and then I'll catch the rest. But go ahead. Sorry. I don't want to keep interrupting you. I'm sorry.
Okay. Let's just get to the bottom of it. Do you think I am in favor of let's say he's right.
You said you're sympathetic to the idea of Christian nationalism, right? I don't think
I am sympathetic to some ideas in Christian nationalism.
Which ones?
We need to have a common religious grounding in our society. And our society is fundamentally based on Christian principles. That's, in my opinion, indisputable and not at all
based
controversial.
on Christian principles is very different from I think we should have a common religious value, right? Like if you say that I think all society
I'm using
should
those
agree...
interchangeably. I'm using those interchangeably. Do I think we should have a state religion?
No, but that doesn't mean that you support Christian nationalism. That means
I don't support Christian nationalism.
You support ideas that come from places like the Bible, but you don't support any sort of...
Hold on 1 second. I'm going to channel my inner Jordan Peterson. I'm going to view... You're Kathy Newman right now, okay? And I have to do my best to just lean back. Because you're saying you support Christian nationalism. Nope, I do not support Christian nationalism.
No, I'm saying you're sympathetic to the idea of Christian nationalism.
No, I'm not.
Well,
Never
hold on.
said that
Let me see
once
what your
ever.
exact quote was, because I have it here. Go ahead and say what you're going to say, though. To just whatever
I'm
your true
sympathetic
opinion is.
to some ideas in Christian nationalism. It depends on what you define by Christian nationalism.
Okay, what do you define Christian nationalism as, and what ideas are you sympathetic to?
What I just said. I think we need to recognize that Western morality is based on Christian presuppositions.
Okay,
The
now,
idea
now
that
what?
all men are
Why
created
do you
equal.
have to say I'm sympathetic to some ideas of Christian nationalism to say,
Maybe to
hey,
appeal to people who are Christian nationalists.
is that the best way to advocate for the idea of, hey, we shouldn't kill people? Well, it's in the Bible, so I guess I'm kind of part of these ideas I think are cool when you're associating yourself with Stephen Wolf, a guy who wants to kick out all the non-white, non-Christian people. Like, don't you see how that's kind of
Are
like
you joking?
not?
All right, hold on. I genuinely can't tell now if you're joking.
I'm not joking, but what do you?
He wants to kick out all of the black people. Did you just
No,
watch
he
the
wants to
fucking
kick
clip
out all
where I
the
asked him
non-white,
specifically?
non-Christian combined into one Venn diagram of all the everyone who is not Christian
Really? He
people.
said that? I've listened to 10 hours of his stuff. If he said that, I would have pulled that up immediately.
How do you get a white ethno state without kicking them out?
Who? Okay.
Like, how do you get a Christian nationalist state without kicking out people who are not Christian nationalists?
Okay, this is uninteresting to me.
Yeah, I know. I watched your stream yesterday where you said, I can't believe we're talking about politics. I want to talk about something interesting, but like, okay,
Yeah,
what do you want to talk about?
something productive, like the underlying philosophy, like the underlying idea that the Western morality is based on Christian principles. That's the fundamental idea I'm sympathetic to.
Isn't that just like self-evident? Like, obviously, the people who founded the country
okay.
did this. Like,
Fine,
isn't
it's
it? No, if
self-evident.
it's
And anything
not,
else that's not
if it's
that?
not, tell me. Would
I think it
people
is self-evident. That's why I support that.
But do you support it because it is where we came from? Like, that's like, I support the idea that the country has evolved and has principles that I like. I like free speech. I like that we don't murder
agree
each
with all
other.
that. I agree
That's
with all
yeah,
that.
I know,
I agree
I
with
know
all
you
that.
do, and that's great. But like,
What do you? How about here's a better question. Let's just do this because you're asking me to spec. Because are you asking?
I do
me
have
if
you on the
think
back
he's-
foot a lot. If you want to try to push back on stuff, go ahead.
No, I'm trying to channel Jordan Peterson right now and just laugh.
Jordan
What do you
Peterson.
think I believe?
Don't
that
cry
you-
on me. That's a Jordan
What?
Peterson thing.
What I will. What do you think I believe that you disagree with? Not like how I go about doing
Sure.
things.
Okay. The whole idea that like Brett Cooper and this like radical centrism is this way forward where we're taking
she's
the
culturally
best idea
centrist.
culturally centrist. Right, obviously.
Yeah.
Because like you're very aware. I know you're not. By the way, the reason I didn't just reject the idea of him talking to you outright is because I don't think you're stupid. Like, you clearly can absorb information. You have interesting ways of talking.
Tell Destiny's fans that.
Well, don't get me wrong. I think your ideas are really stupid, but I think that you can have better ideas. I think you're
I think you're
incapable.
very narrow-minded
Okay,
and
that's fair.
do not recognize the importance of validating people we disagree with, even if we find some of their
I
beliefs
promise you, I
disgusting.
absolutely agree with the idea of validating certain people's beliefs in order to change their minds. I think the way that you're doing
Even
it
if they're
is-
disgusting and terrible, and some of those
Yeah.
beliefs are horrible.
I
You
think
don't-
a question you
can
ask
validate
often
the
is,
reason
do you
they
have
feel
any
a certain way.
Republican friends? Like if you think Trump's a fascist, like, are you friends with Republicans? And I do, and I validate their feelings, and that's how
Do you have
I've
friends
been
who are
able to reach out to them.
racist or misogynist?
Probably, yes. I don't know
Okay.
if they'd ever admit it, but yeah, and I try to push back
No,
on
do you
those
have
things.
friends that are openly racist and misogynist? 'Cause I
Openly?
do.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, absolutely.
How-
Yes.
how
That
can you
say
do
the
that?
N-word?
How can you be friends with someone who is like openly hasn't? Well, first of all, if you don't think those ideas are bad, that's a whole other story. But
I
my
think those
problem,
ideas are terrible.
but how can you put your trust and love into someone who's supposed to be your friend if they can so easily hold these ideas that as soon as they were turned against you would hurt you?
I don't necessarily put my trust in them.
They're your friends. You don't
I
trust
have-
them.
I have dumbass friends who I wouldn't trust in many situations.
Okay, well
I might
maybe
trust them-
you expend
I
your
might trust
monkey
them-
sphere far beyond what I would do.
No,
but
I might,
like-
for example, this is very interesting. Okay, now I'm certain that we are on completely different pages here.
Sure.
Not that I wasn't not that that wasn't apparent in the beginning.
Oh, sure.
I think it's like I have friends who are depressed drug users.
Okay.
They are also very racist.
Okay. Well, one of those
Is
things
the best thing
I
for me to
would-
do to every time they say something racist, just condemn them and show them how much morally superior I am?
No, the best
Or is
thing to do, in my opinion,
should I
the
do?
way that I form friends is if I think that this person holds ideas
no,
that
not
I
asking-
can't
what do you
pull
think I
them
should be
out of.
doing?
Right. If
What do you think
if
I
I
should be
don't
doing?
think you could be pulling these people out of an ideology that is incredibly harmful to people around them and would be incredibly harmful to you were they to turn it on you, I think you shouldn't be friends
Sure.
with them. I think you should cut these people off.
Okay, so is
Which
that
is
what
very-
you think I should do? You think
That
I
is
should
what
cut
I'm
off
telling
my
you.
friends?
I think that if your friends are
okay, I think
vehemently
you're
racist,
delusional.
For
I think
telling
you're
you to not be
delusional.
friends with people who are vehemently racist?
Correct. Yes. Yeah. No. I just told you. I'm giving you. I have a specific friend in mind
The
who
drug
is
user one, right?
depressed and a drug user,
Is the depression
and he
causing
also
him
says the
to
N-word.
be... Well, okay, wait, hold on. If he just says the N-word, if he's like, I don't know, like what the
that's not
context
racist?
is. It depends on the context. If like, you know,
No,
Louis
he gets
CK
like
goes
mad and says like "fuck these N-words."
okay, so he hates black people,
Seems like it.
and you're friends with him.
Correct. Yes.
Do your black friends feel a certain way about you being friends with this person?
You think I?
Have
You
black
think I would
friends? I don't
bring?
know.
Yeah. You think I would bring the person who says the N-word around anyone?
Does it bother you
anyone
that
I
you
hang
can
out with?
have
Anyone,
a
not even if they're
circle
black.
of people that are like, well, I have one friend and he's a Christian nationalist, and this friend wants this friend to die, or he wants to expel this
I don't
person
think
from
he
my
never.
country.
He never. Okay.
Does that just like I don't get me wrong, I have very strict criteria.
Have you considered that one of the reasons I maintain the friendship is because I don't want to further isolate him?
Yes.
And when I have the opportunity to say, hey,
And this
you
is what I was
understand that
gonna
when you
say.
say the N-word, I literally will never bring you around another human being, and then that creates an incentive for him to not do that?
Does he stop? Because you just told me, do you want my idea to be that I should call him out for all of it? And I was like, well, I think you should cut him off. But is that what you do? Do you call him out every time he does it?
Not every time, but sometimes.
Okay, and has it got him to stop whatsoever?
It's certainly, he's certainly much, what would you say? Less racist than he used to be. That's for sure.
Okay, wait, hold on.
Good thing I didn't
wait, hold on.
fucking
Wait,
abandon him and say,
No,
"Holy
hold on. I
superior
think I
am."
might actually agree with you. Okay, the reason I'm still friends with my Republican friends is because I think that because we have this established background, because we have this like rapport already, and then politics has
Okay.
kind of divided this more, I do agree. Yeah, you can pull them a little more to your side. And if that's not what you're doing with your friend, I fully support that.
Yeah.
In fact, I think you're a better person for it. I actually really appreciate that
Correct.
you are
I think
making...
racism is a fucking disgusting.
I know
See,
that. I don't think you're racist. Let's be clear. Like
It sure feels like you do.
well, you're platforming
Because why
racist
else?
and not
You
push...
said I'm smart. You said I'm smart.
Well, hold on. I said
So I must know what I'm doing. So it must be intentional. So when you say I don't think you're racist, I don't believe you. I think you do think that.
I think that if you
You're
are racist, I don't
too
think
cowardly
you
to say
think
it.
you're racist. I think that there's a very big difference between someone who we had openly
I am
crowd.
racist. I am racist. I hate white progressives.
That's fair. I mean, I hate them
More
too.
so than any other race of
No,
progressives.
they're disgusting. Yeah, we smell bad and we look
And
disgusting.
I sort of mean that unironically.
No, that's fine. Here's
Yeah,
what I'm
so I
saying.
am racist.
No, but you got to understand, when I call someone a racist, like I try to use the word not the way that most people do, where, you know, like a Robin DiAngelo DEI folks is like, well, you know,
Okay,
you
well, that's helpful
participate
here.
in white supremacy, so you're a racist. Versus, hey, my friend is calling black people the N-word openly and aggressively because he hates them. I would try to save it a little more for that. Maybe you have an
Yeah,
aversion to like
no,
Cuban
that is what-
food, whatever. Like, I'm not gonna call you a racist for that. Like, I don't fucking know. Like, you have not struck me as someone who is like explicitly.
Why do you think
racist.
I platformed someone who you think I think is a racist then?
Because you have this dumb idea that if I just listen to both sides that are the most radical, somehow I can synthesize the best position
So let me ask you a
out
question.
of Christian nationalism
Yeah, yeah.
and
So my
communist open
audience-
borders.
Okay. So let me ask you this. My audience, well, a good chunk of them hate me, which I appreciate.
I did
but
see your most recent video. You're reading all your
yeah,
hate comments.
it's a
yeah.
long-term strategy I'm working on. It'll pay off. Don't worry.
To
But
be
the
hated.
people that do, yes, the people that do like what I have to say or do agree with me, the people who would consider themselves
Radical centrists.
enlightened centrists. Yeah.
Enlightened or radical? Which one do
They're-
you want me to use?
I alternate. For terminally online spaces, I like enlightened.
Okay.
For the average person, it's radical.
Okay.
And for everyone else, I'm culturally centrist.
Oh, that's the normie version, right?
Yeah, that's the normie version, exactly. A big chunk of my audience are huge free speech, like absolutists, basically, right? Like me. I mean, I am that. So I brought Stephen Wolfe, the guy who wrote The Case for Christian Nationalism, on. And before we talked about anything, the first thing we talked about was how he wants blasphemy laws. He thinks that it's okay to censor free speech if it disagrees with his Bible or his
Right.
biblical interpretation.
Okay.
Now, do you think... Now, what is the outcome of that? Do you think people who watch that go, oh my God, we're going to abandon all of our principles and now give up on free speech and support blasphemy? Or do you think what I did was expose centrists, who are, of course, naturally right-leaning, to the single most dumbest fucking thing that a Christian nationalist believes, which is support of blasphemy
I think
laws?
if you go through and read
if
your
I bet-
Substack back and you think that everyone took away mostly that you vehemently disagree with him completely and not, well, I don't like what he says about free speech, and then a bunch of stuff about, well, I kind of do agree with all this stuff. It looks a
Yeah,
lot
I think that's
worse.
perfectly fine. I think you can do that with anyone. I can
Look,
do that with a communist.
if you
I can do
took
that with a
if
Nazi, I can do that with
if
anyone.
Adolf Hitler came back from the grave today and he said, I fucking love dogs, I'm gonna agree with him, but I'm not gonna have him on my show push back on a little bit of the Nazi stuff and then talk about how much I love dogs with them. For
Yeah,
the rest
so
of the
I'm
fucking
not
thing.
taking you
So-
seriously because you are, if you're thinking what I did is comparable to platforming Hitler.
No, it's not comparable because Hitler
I
was
agree
much,
it's
much,
not
much worse.
comparable.
But it's
Yeah,
you're platforming a man
categorically
who,
different.
First of all, let me
It's-
first thing. So you push back on the blasphemy laws. We didn't really cover this when we talked about deporting white Marxist communist students.
Yes, and
Do you not
replacing them
think
with
that's
1,000
do
Chinese
you not think that's a
Christians.
little at odds with your absolutist free speech
I
position?
think it's hilarious.
I don't care
No,
if
it's
it's
not
funny.
free speech.
Well, their speech or their opinions cause you to say,
No,
I'm
it's not
okay
because
with
they
supporting
say
them.
it's not because they say stupid shit. It's because I don't like them and they're cringy.
Okay, why don't you like them?
Bad vibes. Can't explain it.
How do you get the vibes? Is it like you just the aura when you stand next to them, or this is
Can't
one?
explain
If this one's
to
just a
someone why a
joke and it's
joke is
irony,
funny.
okay. No, if it's just a joke, but I'm saying you seem pretty serious
Everything I
about
do
the
is
idea.
just a joke.
Well, if the whole thing, then I don't have a problem.
think
with
I'm
you. This, like I said,
so
this
wait.
is a masterful troll. If this whole thing's a joke, but like I again, like it doesn't.
Yeah, well,
it seems like this is your real
okay.
persona.
Well, because I think part of the reason I lean into the joking thing is because, as I'm recognizing this conversation, some people are just not in the mood. Let's say. I think you're perfectly capable in other circumstances. I think you, I think you're a progressive and you hate fence-sitting moderate centrists, and they're the like Martin Luther
You know,
King and
it's
many
funny.
other
I
people.
don't even hate them. I'm just upset that they're too scared to call themselves right wing when that's 99% of the time what they are.
Yeah, interesting.
It just
Yeah.
it seems kind of silly. Like,
Yeah,
okay,
well,
you're sympathetic.
when I talk to Andrew Wilson,
Well, Andrew
he
Wilson's
says the exact same thing, except
pretty
I'm a
radical.
progressive with a speed limit.
Yeah, I know. That's what the right wings say when they talk about centrists.
Yeah.
Like, oh, they're
So-
progressive
so
with
I-
speed
so-
limits.
so if-
What's your
so a
most
bunch of
progressive
leftists
ideal? I mean,
call
you're
me-
happy Trump got elected, right? You said that in your CJ conversation.
No,
Is
I'm
that
not happy.
You said,
I'm happier that Trump won over Kamala.
Okay, we can play the semantics game. You're happy that Trump won, right?
That's a very different thing.
You're
No, I'm
happy
not happy that
Kamala
Trump won.
lost. Okay, you're not
No.
happy with Trump.
I'm not happy with Trump. No.
Okay.
I'm happier
Who is your
that
ideal
Trump won.
candidate?
Bernie Sanders, probably.
Really?
I would have voted for Bernie Sanders over Trump in a heartbeat. I voted for Jill Stein.
Well, Jill Stein is like not a serious human being. She goes into a hole for
I
4
agree.
years.
She
comes out,
had
and
no
then-
chance to win. I was trying to send a message.
To who?
But I would absolutely vote for Bernie Sanders
Okay. Why?
because I think his economic policies align more with me.
Okay.
I think he has the right attitude on the Israel-Palestine issue, which is an important issue right now.
Okay.
Those are two big ones.
Okay. Why vote for Trump over Kamala if your economic positions align with Bernie Sanders? Or why be happier that Trump won over Kamala if your economic
Because I
positions-
think he's more likely to deploy the military to the border, which is probably the most pressing issue.
Okay, so you're.
Would you like to know why I think the
Bernie
border is the pressing issue?
Sanders. No, we can get into that, but because
Okay.
Bernie Sanders, you would vote for because of his econ policies, and Kamala Harris would, in my opinion, maybe you don't agree, would put us closer to that. Obviously, not close enough for what I would want, but closer. But you would vote
No, I
for
don't
Trump
think
because
so.
the
I
border
think
is
Kamala
more
Harris-
important. That I'm
I
trying to.
don't-
That wasn't me being like, oh, this is
Sure.
ridiculous. I mean, I do think it's a little
Yeah,
silly,
yeah,
but
yeah.
like,
No,
is
no,
that your
I
position?
love
Is
Bernie
that
Sanders.
immigration
I-
is more important than the econ thing?
I think Kamala would be as much of a tool of corporate interests as any other politician, and Trump.
Do you think
uh,
Obama is a tool of, corporate interests?
I think Obama was a continuation of the Bill Clinton sort of neoliberal economic status
But
quo,
he got
which I
us. He got
disagree
us
with.
closer to a universal healthcare system than, say, any right wing politician, right?
Yeah, sure, that was good. Obamacare was probably good overall. I don't know much
but
about
then that's
healthcare.
what I'm saying. You don't think like a Kamala or a Joe Biden would be pushing us in a more left wing healthcare position to what you would want
No,
with a Bernie
I don't.
thing?
I think pharmaceutical interests are pretty well entrenched, which is why the DNC kneecapped Bernie multiple times.
No, I'm not saying that obviously they have the exact same policies. I'm saying obviously one of these parties is going to be pushing us a certain way. This is what I mean when I'm like, why would you be a centrist? If you align so clearly with a Bernie Sanders on this very clear progressive left policy, why
Yeah.
even entertain the
Because
idea?
I'm not super progressive, and I disagree with Bernie on a lot of stuff.
If you would vote for Bernie as your ideal politician, obviously not the best, but the best out of all of your options.
The ideal, like of the most realistic ones.
Okay, well,
my
here we go.
ideal?
Well,
my ideal
who would you
be,
vote
my
for if it
ideal-
was your ideal? Okay, obviously it'd be
That's a good
yourself, right?
question.
Because they would agree with everything you would
I
say,
was
right?
okay. I'm thinking of the actual potential people that could have
Right, and that's what I'm saying too.
elected.
Right,
What's my
like
ideal?
for the viable candidates,
I
Bernie
don't know.
Sanders has progressive healthcare policy. You agree with this. This is why he would be the most ideal out of the viable options, and yet is immigration then obviously a more important policy to you? So why even bring up Bernie Sanders? Like if Trump, you
I think
would
Bernie
vote
would
for
have done a
Trump.
good job on the border too. He's explicitly stated open borders as a Koch brothers idea, which it is.
Okay, but Kamala Harris isn't for open borders.
I think Kamala Harris is much worse on borders than Bernie Sanders, but Trump, which is more relevant here.
Do you think Bernie Sanders would be stricter on immigration than Kamala Harris?
Yeah,
In what way?
I think so, because he recognizes that because he's pro working class.
Mhm.
If you have a lot of immigrant labor that's coming here as economic refugees that competes with working class.
No, I know he recognizes that. He
wages.
talked about that in the H-1B stuff, but what would he policy-wise do to
I
secure
don't
the
know.
border more strictly?
I
This is
don't
what
know.
I'm saying. Like, if you
It's a vibe
agree,
thing.
okay, if Trump's immigration policy is clearly what you support more, why say that Bernie would be your ideal candidate if you seem to be more focused on the border and Trump has
Because-
your border policy?
Because I think Bernie would also be able to secure the border just like Trump might, and he might not. We might be fucked no matter who's president, and be lied to no matter who's president. Just be we're all at the whim of billionaires no matter what, it seems like. So maybe none of it matters. I don't know. But if I'm gonna bet, I'd prefer Bernie over Trump, and I would have voted Bernie over Trump. But if it's Trump versus Kamala, then I guess I'm fucked, and I'll go with Trump. Actually, I didn't.
Well, yeah,
I
you
voted
did.
for
You
Joe
you
Biden
voted
once
for
again, but I'll
Biden.
say
Jill Stein, yeah, right in Texas. You said,
Yeah.
Did you drive?
Yes,
It was
I drove 10 minutes and paid $10 to park to cast my vote for Jill Stein because I wanted to send a message that I think what America is doing in Palestine is disgusting, which it is.
okay.
And
How
I
do you
think
feel
what
about
Trump is
the,
doing
yeah,
is
the Trump stuff?
beyond disgusting.
Yeah, no, obviously, like I think you've said
yeah.
you disagree heavily with his whole like let's invade Gaza and turn it into my real estate strip.
Yeah, that's
right?
an
So-
understatement. I do disagree heavily.
Yeah,
with that.
yeah,
But I'm a
super.
centrist, so maybe I should support him because I'm really right wing, and I just agree with whatever Trump says.
Well,
Oh, wait.
what's well, yeah, but again, but you're still preferring him over Kamala, who wouldn't do that. So I'm a little confused as to why.
I don't know. I have no idea what Kamala would do, given that Kamala and Biden did absolutely nothing. There's no reason to believe.
You think Kamala
it's-
would
it's
invade with
How
boots
do
on the
we
ground
how do we
to push them
know?
all
How do
out?
we prove it? What is it counterfactual or unfalsifiable?
You think it's unfalsifiable to say, well, just because Trump did this radical thing, I don't know that Kamala wouldn't have done this incredibly radical thing that everyone, including his own administration, is
I'm not
freaked out by him
saying that Kamala would have done the exact same thing. I'm saying Kamala would have done exactly the same amount of nothing to stop
But it's
Israel
not
from doing what
nothing.
it's doing.
One is full deep-throated support of Netanyahu, and the
Okay,
other
I don't know
is
what do you-
bullshit.
okay,
Like
what-
well, here's my red line.
okay.
Like I'm not saying that what she did was playing hardball. It clearly wasn't. But like these are
Yeah,
very
she let
obviously
she
different
let
policies.
Netanyahu do whatever the fuck he wanted. Well, Biden did because she wasn't in charge.
Well,
but she
do you
would have-
think
I have no reason to
Netanyahu
believe
wants
that
to
she would have
kick
done anything
every
differently.
Palestinian out because she's not? I don't know if she
Yeah,
would
I
let
do.
him
I think
that.
he wants.
And
yeah, I think
Trump
he'd
is
be-
saying, not only am I
just
going
to
to
be
let you
clear,
do it,
just to be clear,
I'm
just
going
to
to
be
do
clear,
it
I think
and help you do it.
for the record, I think Netanyahu is far worse than Stephen Wolf. I hope that's not controversial here.
That's probably true, honestly.
Yeah,
Yeah. No,
Right.
hey,
So,
I like that. Thank you for fighting.
and if
for
I
me,
had the
Brad.
opportunity to talk to Benjamin Netanyahu, I think I would.
But I
Actually,
would
no, I
assume,
wouldn't. I'd be assassinated immediately. So no, that'd be terrible.
You don't think you'd push back on him heavily, though?
Okay,
right?
we
Right?
seem to agree far more than you let on at the beginning.
No, we super don't. I think the
Okay,
one thing that we've agreed on
I've yet to
is
hear what
that,
we actually disagree about substantially.
your entire ideology, first of all. But we
Okay,
don't have
like
to
I
walk in
said,
circles
I've
about
yet
that.
to hear
Um,
what specifically. It sounds like we agree that you shouldn't isolate
hold
people
on.
who are racist.
Let me be very clear. Your idea is my ideal ranking for border policy is Trump, then Bernie, and then Kamala, as if like Bernie would not
No,
be.
I don't even know. First off, I don't know what Bernie never had to articulate his border policy because they've got fucking kneecapped. So thank you, Democrats. Thank you, Soy Pill, for shilling one-sided vote blue no matter who. Because don't be a centrist. So thank you for that for taking out Bernie. If Bernie had articulated his border policy, I would have been able to look at it. I don't
Bernie
know.
has
And I also-
articulated
first
border,
off, I also
border
disagree-
policy
I don't-
before.
I
I don't
don't-
know it off the top of my head, but he's absolutely talked about it.
He's talked about what?
Bernie Sanders has absolutely talked about what we should do at the border. I
Yes.
guarantee it.
Yes, and okay, yes, and what I've heard, although I don't know what his specific like. He didn't have a bullet point policies down because he didn't need one because he wasn't running.
Right. He didn't
He's
have to.
against
Well,
open borders.
he would
Now,
talk
I'm
about it when
against
someone passed
deportation.
him.
I'm against Trump's deportations. I
Really?
think that's stupid.
But you're
Yeah.
against birthright citizenship. But you're against the deportations.
Okay, first off, those are two completely different things. So let's stick with one thing first.
They're pretty ideologically aligned, but okay.
Let's stick with one thing first.
Let's
the
go through each one. Yeah,
deportations.
yeah.
I'm against the deportations.
Okay, why?
I think they're inhumane. What are you going to just knock down some grandma's door? You're going to cause all kinds of civil rights violations. I think it makes much more sense to say, if you've made it here so far, okay, well, that's kind of fucked that you broke our laws, but fine. We're going to deploy the military to the border, and we're basically putting a moratorium for like a year on immigrant. No, not a single other person crosses the border.
Okay, and then deal with the
And then
process, the people that are in the country.
Yes, and then we
amnesty
say,
or
okay,
some
there's a
sort of
whole,
thing.
there's a ton of people. We need to give them, and I'm even like, this could be a decades. It wouldn't be a moratorium for decades, but it would be severely restricted for decades, which we've done historically. We say, let's give everyone here time to assimilate, and also figure out if there's any fucking terrorists like over the border. Because my main fucking problem is the fact that we have an open border puts us at is probably the single biggest national security risk we face. Okay, we know that, for example, there are Chinese nationals who have come over the border that we barely fucking track or lose track of. We lost track of, I think it was 50,000 children or more.
I think,
or like the
I think
high
the numbers I
profiles.
hear from Republicans are hundreds of thousands, but I've never.
Okay,
looked
well
into
that's
this.
probably well maybe I'm underestimating it. Okay, but whatever. You understand that there's a possibility we go to war with China over Taiwan, right? That's not completely out of the
100%,
question.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I'm China, and I know that the United States has an open border, what unless I am truly schizophrenic and everyone in the CCP all collectively did heroin at the same time during the military strategy meeting, the number one thing I would do, and Iran would do this as well because Iran funds proxies, is send specially trained operatives to the fucking Darien Gap and come up through our exposed border. And then, in the event of a war with China, you ever walked by a substation? You ever
Like a
seen how fucking exposed those things are?
submarine?
A substation.
What's a substation?
Substation is where power from generators are, I believe the term is, it's something like decompressed. You have very high voltage power
Oh,
lines.
yes. Okay. I
And
know what you're
before it
talking
can
about.
go into your in my house, it has to go through a substation.
Yes, I've walked
It's a
past
little
a
like
substation.
50 square yard thing with all kinds of shit. If that goes out, the power's out for the entire chunk of the power grid. Okay, so you have one coordinated attack on those, which is easy as fuck to do. You can take them out with guns or get a propane bomb and blow them up.
Okay.
The idea that that is out of the realm of possibility is delusional.
Well, I don't
and
even think.
absurd.
First of all, hold on. You said they know we have open borders, which I don't think that's true. But let me just start on what you just said. I know that's true because that's literally happened, right? People have done like attacks in the past 4 or 5 years. They like have shot those up or something and had caused power
Yeah.
outages. Yeah, 100%.
Uncoordinated.
100%. Yeah, of course that's happened. But to say that my primary and most important issue is I'm going to vote for Donald Trump, who will do this thing that I think is incredibly inhumane and terrible. But he will maybe secure the border in a way that will prevent potential subversive Chinese or Iranian nationals coming into the country and doing this potential attack for a war that hasn't happened yet. Seems a little bit of a stretch for why
when
you would.
phrase it like when you phrase it like that, it does seem
Yeah,
as
when I
dumb as
say
it
your whole
sounds.
position out loud, it.
Yeah, in the most charitable way.
Well, it's not charitable,
all.
but that's what I just heard.
Yeah, I
What
know.
about that do you
I know.
disagree with?
I think that the threat of coordinated attacks coming from people that made it through the border, I think anyone who thinks that isn't a possibility,
I didn't
or
say it
even
wasn't a possibility,
likelihood.
but how likely do you think that is, and how?
Well, I don't know. Well,
how
I don't-
much
I
more
don't know.
important is that to you than?
Let's
would you
use
say-
common sense. Let's use common sense.
I hate that
Let's
word.
just
What's common sense, man?
Let's
Come
do.
on.
All right, let's do the probability. What do you think what is the probability that China has explicitly thought about doing this and said?
100%.
Okay, well, now what is the probability that they've executed on this?
That they've already done it, or that
There
they've
are
put
Chinese
people.
nationals here.
Okay.
Given that the CCP
Let's just say there's
knows that
100%.
they're
Let's.
gearing up
I'll
for
give
war
you.
with Taiwan.
Hold on. Let me skip all
Okay.
this. I think they've thought about this. They probably have people in our country. There are definitely
Okay.
spies in here, and this is definitely part
Yep.
of something they've considered. Sure.
Yeah.
Now, what you have to consider is now what percentage of whether or not this turns the tide of the war do you think is going to be like the oh well just because this
Yeah, I'm not
happened
concerned
now
about the tide of the
fuck
war.
the
I'm
entire
concerned. Yeah. No, I'm concerned about my power going out for multiple months on end and then dying because I'm fucking like you, a soy, and I would immediately die in the event of an extended power
okay
outage.
so your number one issue, and I'm going to try to say this charitably, is that
Okay, this
because
will be a
of
good test.
Kamala Harris not as strict border policy, there is more opportunity, if not a greater opportunity, for Chinese and Iranian nationals to come across the border, get lost in the system, and then have now plans to execute a power shutdown of the country by shooting these substations or
Coordinated
blowing them
attacks
up,
on
or what a
infrastructure,
coordinated attacks on the American infrastructure,
Yep.
and taking out your power, causing you to die because of lack of logistics, groceries, heating.
Panic attack. It'd just be an extended panic attack, probably.
Oh yeah, just I'm so startled by the fact that the Chinese are the Chinese panic. That's your number one issue.
Number one issue in what? Politically?
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't call it my number one issue. There's like 50 different issues.
But you are
AGI
happier
will
that
kill us all, probably.
Trump won over Kamala because of this issue. You think this is like the most prescient,
I think if I were to
important thing to
rank
happen.
order federal policies, I think immigration, I think the border policy is among the most important ones domestically. Yeah, probably.
because of the potential Chinese attacks on
Because
our
of-
substations?
Yes, among other things. Does that sound somewhat paranoid to you?
Incredibly paranoid. I'm not saying it's
Let's see.
impossible.
Well, but that's because this is the war that I always fight in myself. Is like, wait a minute, I live in the 21st century. I'm rich. I have iPhones. I've never struggled like
You
anyone
cut
in
out
the
again.
world.
God damn it. I'm sorry. I think it's when you touch the back of your mic. I
I
don't know.
think you're right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna not do that.
Sorry about that.
The reason,
By the way, do you consider that a centrist position, just off the top of your head?
it's my position. I don't know. I don't care enough to call it a centrist.
Well, you
position.
call yourself a radical centrist. Like,
Yeah,
here's
but
the
no,
thing.
I really am
Again, this
anti-centrist.
is
I flex in and out when it's useful to me.
Clearly, I mean, this is what I'm saying is like, if you were just like, hey, I'm like a conspiracy theorist, I take some ideas from the left, but I don't think I'm a centrist because I fall squarely on the side of immigration is my number one policy because I'm scared
What
of
should
the
I say?
Chinese.
What label should I call myself?
I'm not centrist. Jesus Christ, I don't know. I would put you
Well,
somewhere.
what's
in the
what's a
right.
label that if you were like, I'm being honest, this is a serious question.
No,
right?
I know.
Okay,
And to be
centrism
fair,
is
I don't
wrong.
know
And
what
given
label
that-
I would give you, but I don't think centrist is the right one. I mean,
Okay, well, that's very helpful. If you offer me an alternative, should I call myself progressive?
guys, chat. This is the first time I'm going to talk to chat. Guys, hit me up with some better contenders for what you would categorize this. Libertarian conspiracist. I don't think you're a libertarian, right? Not at all in
No,
economics.
the only person dumber than a socialist is a libertarian.
I could agree with the fact that libertarians are dumb. All right, everyone's just being mean now. All right, whatever. It doesn't matter. I don't have a label for it, but I just don't think this is a centrist position. But you were saying
Okay,
before you got really
that's fine.
interrupted by your own mic.
Yeah, well, I think it is kind of paranoid, but I go back and forth. Am I paranoid or am I just unbelievably arrogant to think that for the rest of my life I will never suffer serious civil societal chaos, even though the entire history of humanity is characterized by that, even though there are millions upon millions upon millions of people as we speak who are suffering that, but because I'm an American and because I've never personally experienced it in my 28 years, it probably will never happen. I go back and forth. I'm either paranoid or I'm arrogant. I'm probably both.
I'm confused about the arrogant part. I mean, I don't think you're insane
Why
to think
would
this
you-
is a possibility. Because
then-
obviously it could be. Like, this
Okay,
has
but
literally
why-
happened, right? It's not about like, oh, whether or not this is like it's possible that a Chinese person from the military came in and could do this. Yes,
It's not
could
just.
be.
It's not just.
but-
I'm not specifically like. Well, it's a Chinese person who came in and
coordinated
shoots at the substation
coordinated
nearby.
Chinese attack to disrupt the American
Or
infrastructure.
even just
sure.
an Iranian cyber attack.
Or that, yes. Yeah, like obviously these are possibilities, but to dictate
Yeah.
the way that you are happy about the outcome of the election based on what probability you think this is actually going to happen, like this is not what most people would consider, first of all, culturally, radically, or enlightened centrists, but just in the realm of any possibility. Like not a single politician is talking about this as like this is the reason we have to do this. They are talking
that's not
about
true.
well, yeah, they are talking about
Grid
hey, there are
resiliency is actually one of the most like popular talking points, and I actually happen to know that in Dallas, the city I'm on, they're working on grid resiliency projects because they
That's
recognize
true.
how much of a problem
And
this is.
let me take that back. Obviously, they are saying like, hey, MS-13, all these foreign nationals are coming across the border. We don't know who they are. Yeah, they are saying this, but it's very baffling to me that this is like your number one policy, especially if you would otherwise vote for Bernie Sanders.
Well, maybe I'm slightly more anxious. Maybe I'm much more anxious than you are.
This is I have a section on here on conspiracy theories. Okay, you wrote this Substack article on. Let me shrink this down a little bit so I can click on this little buddy here. This is the one on the Cybertruck explosion. You know that. You remember that one, right? This happened very recently.
The explosion or the guy running the truck into the crowd?
The guy that was outside of the Trump Tower. Do you want me to just link you your Substack? Here.
Oh, is that the one with the passport that was intact or whatever?
That is the one with the passport, the ID that was intact.
Yeah.
So what
okay,
about...
What did I say on that?
Well, hold on. That's going to freeze the video when I click on this because the way this works. Let me see if I can open your Discord in the side window. Do that. So move your face around so I can see if you're actually moving. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, where do I grab this? Oh, God, this Discord is so stupid. It like permanently puts itself in the top overlay. All right, so... yeah, so your idea is the Cybertruck exploded, and the conspiracy is, well, how, if his body was, like, unidentifiable, did his ID survive? Like, and so...
I think it was
Michael Shermer. Yes, exactly. You quoted Michael Shermer.
Do you know who that is?
I barely looked into him. Not very much. But he's like, I think you say in the... I know what you say he is, which is he's, like, vehemently anti-conspiracist.
Yeah,
so, like, if he's saying then...
I think he runs Skeptic magazine.
Okay, wait.
Which, as we all know, if you call yourself a skeptic, it means you're a skeptic. But
a skeptic as in skeptic of the narrative from the government, or skeptic of...
No, as in skeptic of conspiracy theories and stuff like that. Like, their whole thing is debunking conspiracy theories.
Okay, so I didn't look into the Fort Bragg stuff or any of this stuff.
Okay.
But what I'm really confused about here is, you think it's impossible for this, or not impossible, more likely for this plastic ID to not have been burned, to have been completely incinerated, than it is that there's this vast conspiracy out of Fort Bragg to like train these operatives into committing terrorist attacks or subvert their government or cause sorts of like, social chaos. Like, is it not just completely Occam's razor within the realm of possibility that this thing just didn't get incinerated in an explosion?
Yeah, of course. Totally.
Okay, well, why did you make a whole post about it then?
Because Michael Shermer was concerned, and I was like, fuck, if Michael Shermer is concerned about this.
But
it's my heuristic.
So it's just like, oh,
like when my doctor prescribes me medicine, you go, well, how do you know that the medicine works? I'm like, well, because the doctor said it does, and that's as good as I'm going to get.
Right.
And if the guy whose whole job is to debunk conspiracies, even ones that I think he's wrong about, and he says, like, what the fuck's going on here? I go, kind of interesting, everyone.
But that's it. It's just like, oh, well, this is my litmus test usually, but he seems a little skeptical, therefore now I'm a little skeptical. Do you, if Michael Shermer hadn't said this, would you not think, well, this is kind of a... Okay. But now let's take Michael Shermer, but let's remove Michael Shermer from the equation. Do you not think it's kind of stupid to think that, hey, maybe this ID just didn't get incinerated? Like maybe whatever this material is doesn't burn. Well, now you know, right? Okay, now you see this. You see this piece of plastic ID, this government ID. It's a little singe from a Cybertruck explosion.
Yeah, you know what? I should follow up with what Michael Shermer's found out about it.
I'm just saying.
Do you have a problem? Hold on. Do you have a problem with me using other people as heuristics and saying?
Well, yeah, if what they say is stupid.
What informs...
If what they say is just like a very... Like, if I can think about it for 5 seconds and be like, well, that doesn't really point to a conspiracy.
But why do you think Michael... Right, okay, so why did Michael Shermer say that? Do you think Michael Shermer's stupid?
It's just based on all of what I know about him, which is this tweet, yeah, but maybe he has some other smart ideas.
Okay, then, respectfully, I do not take your opinion on this issue seriously.
Okay, fair enough. Can we talk about U.S. aid? That was your most recent article.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so... You
mean
said...
U.S. AIDS because it's so fucking gay?
Got it. I hate that made me laugh. God damn you. Like that wasn't a joke. I did laugh.
Yeah.
You said we could cut 20 billion safely. And I took issue with your article.
No, I say we could probably cut whatever Mike Benz suggested, which was more than 50%.
Right. Why do you hold Mike Benz in high regard?
It's a good question. I wrote about it in the Substack article. Why don't you tell me what I wrote, given that you're bringing this up?
You said, well, Mike Benz is kind of pro. You could even consider him pro, like, to the establishment. He thinks USAID, even in and of itself, isn't a bad idea. He actually defended kind of the institution of USAID, and then he talks about the problems with it. So you're saying because he gives credence to the idea that it should exist, he's obviously not someone who wants to delete it like Elon Musk or Donald Trump. Therefore, we should trust his opinion
it's actually a pretty
on it.
when someone goes on a platform that is favorable to them, and they exercise restraint, and they even try to steelman the other side. That's generally a sign of, okay, this person is, to me, that's
at
a
least good
heuristic for-
faith. Yeah, like he's like
and someone
trying. Yeah.
incredible. And then and I listened to the Joe Rogan one and
The Tucker Carlson
the
one, yeah.
Tucker Carlson one, and he endlessly cites examples of ridiculous stuff that I would consider waste, fraud, and abuse.
Right. And you put some of these in here. Let's
Yeah.
see. Let me go through. I gotta drag this on the other side. Give me a second.
It was
here. So it's
I know the one off the top of my head. It's $1.5 million
to
for
Serbian DEI. Okay.
Yeah,
What?
in the workplace.
What's your problem with that? Like just offhand.
That money should go to Americans.
So this is
It's
like a zero-sum game thing. We can't give out foreign aid because if it's for something I disagree with, it should go to us.
Are you asking if the allocation of dollars is a zero-sum game? Yes, by definition it is.
Right, but it seems as if we can't give anything to anyone until we solve all of our problems. This is like, if anything, that's
didn't
kind of
say
something you reject,
I
right?
didn't
Like the
say
whole
that. Right.
Peterson clean your room thing.
Yep, I didn't say that, and neither did Mike Benz.
Okay, but
I
you
said,
just
I
said
don't
we
think-
can't do this
what I
because
said.
it should go to Americans.
Yeah,
Right.
I said I think here's what I believe.
Mhm.
I think that there are probably at least 5, maybe 10 other ways that $1.5 million could be spent in the United States.
Wait,
That
is
would
it million or billion?
1.5 million.
That's it?
That's it.
That's like nothing.
I know, and you know what? During the housing crisis, well, hold on. There's one house that foreclosed. It's just one. What happens when you take a bunch of small things that are shit and then put them together?
Well, let's talk about just the Serbian DEI thing. What's your issue with Serbian DEI? You know, like Serbia had an entire ethnic cleansing of
it's so
people
fun.
because of their like lack of.
You're very good. You watch
acceptance of other
Destiny?
people.
Do you notice what you just did to me right now?
No,
you
I
watch-
actually don't. But I have
Yeah, yeah.
watched Destiny. I haven't been really interested
So
in it recently.
I picked this specific narrow example so we could focus the discussion.
Mhm.
And then you're like, but that's such a small example. And then you said, well, let's just stick to this small example.
Sorry. Okay.
Very crafty.
I know. I wasn't trying to be crafty.
It's
So
unconscious, I know, it's
but I see what
unconscious.
happened there. Okay, look. Let's talk about the specific issue with this.
Sure.
I think it's not a big deal as insofar as I think I support what this is promoting, but I also would acknowledge that this is not a very large amount of money and it's not something to be upset about. This is a rounding error on
Okay,
our
on that point,
discretionary
let's
spending.
let's
So
do this. This is
start with just the Serbian DEI and then move on from
yeah,
there.
but let me address the second point to make this conversation more fruitful because I'm using this as a proxy.
Yeah, obviously, yes.
For let's say there's 10,000 other programs like this that are of the equivalent. There's like 70,000 for Irish opera to promote
Yeah, or
DEI.
Transcomic.
So when you
or
add up
whatever
all
the
that
fuck.
stuff, yeah. So we'll just stick with that one.
Okay.
And according to Mike Benz, there's like billions upon billions when you add these
Yeah,
up.
no,
right?
it's upwards of 40 billion.
So
The
let's
only
stick-
reason that this humanitarian aid is no longer the first thing is because governance has taken over in the past 2 years because we're giving money to Ukraine, right? So like this used to be the majority of what we spent it on, and you might not consider that humanitarian aid, but this is the reason I want to pick this example apart is because Serbian DEI program, as in like, hey, promoting acceptance of people who are different. In this case, I think it was LGBT people in a country that, as
Yeah.
of the past 20 years, 30
So I
years,
think that's
committed a
So I think in
genocide
principle
against
that
people.
it would be a good cause. But
Right.
what you have to justify to me is instead of giving $1.5 million to, for example, community activists in the south side of Chicago that teach underprivileged youth technical and trade skills,
Mhm.
we're going to instead give that money to Serbian DEI programs.
But
I'd say nope,
why is it an instead? Why is it an either or thing?
because there's. Do you think you can just print money infinitely?
Well, we can, but that's I know where you're going with that. I don't agree with just printing money infinitely, but is it the idea that
Okay,
like,
so
well,
let's
we're not
assume-
funding
Let's
this.
operate under the assumption. Let's operate under the assumption we're an organization, we're a government organization,
Mhm.
whatever. We're a household, we're a
Well, if you're about to
we
present
have,
the dichotomy between one or the other, obviously, yeah, I would
That's
actually
what it
support.
is.
But it's not, because we can do both of those things. First of all, I think if it was an inner city underprivileged thing, maybe that gets federal funding, but it would probably come from the state, and the state would vote on that. And I would say, why not do both of these
Give it
things?
to the state?
Huh? No,
Okay.
no, the state
Yes
would
or
be.
no? Yeah, hold on. Because either we're having this conversation or not.
Okay.
Do you believe that when it comes to allocating U.S. tax dollars,
Mhm.
there is a fixed pool per year,
Yes.
or there isn't?
Yes,
Okay.
obviously
So
there
it is a
is.
zero-sum game now.
Okay,
So we
it's
admit
a
it's a
zero-sum
zero-sum
game,
game.
but if I could give 1.5 million to a foreign country to promote them, ideas, progressive ideas that might prevent them from doing another genocide that causes us to
Yeah.
do a military intervention, and I can
Okay.
use some of the other billions, if not trillions, of dollars of
No,
discretionary
no, no, no,
spending,
no, 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 no,
one point
stop.
oh 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 1% of that to do it to inner city things. Why not both of these things? Like,
Okay.
because you're going to say
Legit-
we have to add all these up, and it's what, less than 1% of our entire budget to foreign aid. Therefore, we should cut all of that. And then, first of all, if you're supporting the party that's cutting all that, they're cutting all that, and then they're not going to do all those things you talked about. They're not going to give it to veterans. They're not going to give it to inner city black technical schools. They're just going to cut it and then pass tax cuts. So
Okay. This is now we agreed on the conversation and then we just change it again.
sorry, I'll stop pontificating. Go.
Okay. Okay. I don't like Elon Musk and I don't like what they're doing.
Well, you think cutting U.S. aid is
I
good,
think
good vibes?
I
I
think
believe is
y-
the quote.
yes, I think more than half of U.S. aid could probably be cut
Based on what?
based on what Mike Benz outlined. And like
Okay.
we just said, we're using the $1.5 million Serbian DEI discussion as a proxy for all things like that, which add up to billions of dollars.
Okay, so if
So we're putting all of those things in the same category:
What-
transgender opera, whatever it is, Serbian DEI. All of that adds up to several billion.
tuberculosis shots in Africa.
No, not that. That's
Don't cut
not
that.
the 50% that I want to cut. No,
Okay.
that's why I said 50%, not 100%.
Okay, well, they are cutting 100%. Or it seems like they're just shutting it off and freezing it.
Actually, I
So,
don't think they're cutting anything right now because they don't have the
Yeah.
legal authority to do it.
well, that's not going to stop them. But they're freezing it and ignoring judge orders.
Maybe.
So, okay, but
I'm saying
that's a different conversation. Whether or not you support that.
You asked me
Um,
why do I think that more than 50% of U.S. aid could be cut?
Because this guy
Because-
said that, and then the examples he cites are things you slightly disagree with, and then you think it's a zero-sum game. As
No,
in
they're
that
not
should
things I
be-
slightly disagree with. I think that there are, if we're going to spend that money, because maybe you can make the case that we should just lower people's taxes, right? Or increase the child tax credit, which I'm in favor of.
Mhm.
Instead of that, instead of giving it to Serbian workplaces to run DEI programs, which by the way have no evidence of being effective. I was on DEI program design teams in corporate America. I know for a fact they're fucking worthless.
Well, it might be.
There are variations of them that are explicitly designed to rectify what other DEI programs that didn't work, the issues that those cause. Like Robin DiAngelo's DEI, zero evidence whatsoever that improves anything.
I
at
mean,
all.
by her own metric, she probably admits that people are very recalcitrant when you.
There you go.
Yell
So
at
then
them.
there are
Sure.
DEI programs that call themselves DEI that are like, they're called bandages for that shit, where they come in and they give a pro-human approach. But I'm talking about DEI programs
Mhm.
in Serbian work. I would say,
Mhm.
even if they did work,
Right.
Would it be
well,
good to
I-
reduce
that?
that?
I thought we
Sure,
were
let's
already
just make
on
that
that. I
assumption.
thought we were
Fine,
already
let's make
on
that
that
assumption.
page that you like,
Fine,
assuming
let's
it does what it's saying it does.
let's
Like,
make that assumption.
if it was a bad program and you could measurably show that, I would agree with cutting it. By
Sure.
the way, I'm
That's
not
part
like
of
some
why I believe it. But for sake of argument, let's say it works.
right.
I
Well, that's
think-
where we're. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, I think those tax dollars are better put in the example I gave. So if you're
Yeah, but we're not doing that. So like, why support
Okay.
cutting the U.S. aid?
Well, first off, I don't
okay.
know what it's gonna be used for. And
Well,
first
why
off,
not? Look,
correct me if I'm wrong,
read
hasn't
go
Trump
read the
raised
budget
child
plan.
tax credit?
That I don't know about. I would have to go look and see if he did.
Okay.
I don't think he has.
And I
yet,
know
but-
he was him and Tim Scott put the most amount of money in the opportunity zones, which had one of the biggest impacts on Black communities.
Mhm. And I'm saying,
So is there
do you
there
think
reason
that?
to believe?
Go ahead.
Is there reason to believe that money could go away from something that I regard as not a good use of resources when compared to where else it could be spent? Now you're saying, well, Paul, you don't know that it will be spent on other areas, therefore we have to leave it. I'd say no.
No. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that first of all, it's not. That's not what's happening. We're not. Let's say it's what. Let's
Yeah,
make
I
it a
fucking
very round
hate
number.
Elon
$50
Musk and
billion.
I hate Donald Trump when it comes
But then
down
why
to
are
it.
you
I
writing
really do.
articles running defense for them cutting U.S. aid?
Because that's what I believe is true. U.S. aid could probably be cut by 20%, and we'd be better off.
When you say
that.
we'd be better off, do you think that okay, obviously it's a zero-sum game. I'm not disagreeing with that. do you think that the less than 1% of our discretionary budget that goes to US aid, that promotes our soft power across the world so that we don't have to go in and use our military, is not somehow, by preventing that, we're somehow like preventing us from getting all these programs that you're
Yeah. Okay.
advocating
Well,
for?
let me. So, and fair enough. Your point that, well, we're like, I'm supporting and cutting these things, but I don't know that it's going anywhere else. So why cut it? It's like, okay, if I knew for a fact it wasn't going to go, it was just going to go to like capital gains tax cuts,
No,
then I'd say
not
fuck
even
it,
that.
fine,
I,
keep it
I
in
agree with
Serbia.
what you're
Fuck the
saying, is that's my position, but not even that. Just the idea that like this very small amount of our budget is somehow like, oh, we definitely need to cut half of this because I ideologically disagree with what half of this is, and that's because also we need money for this other stuff. It would be better spent in America, as if
Sure.
there isn't a 99% of the other budget that we could be spending in that exists, like as if this isn't like a rounding error on stuff that is probably promoting our soft power everywhere. Like this is such a
Okay.
nitty
Yeah.
gritty to get into. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. There's a separate discussion, which I would say I don't really know enough to have. I don't. By the way, I don't have. I need to do better at picking what I think it's worth talking about, because I've learned after having done many streams and talking to many Destiny fans that I truly am ignorant on foreign policy things.
I am too.
Now,
I wouldn't say that I'm some
yeah,
expert.
so we can have a discussion about, well, I actually think that, there's, for example, a lot of countries hate US aid. The left-wing president of Mexico said, good, US aid should be shut down, and that money should come through more transparent humanitarian channels, was, I think, her exact quote, or something like that. I go, yeah, let's do that. Because I think that the CIA and the State Department doing all these, well, we're the American empire, and we're, trying to manipulate governments so that we can produce, or we can get them to put military bases in the places we want, so then we can access shipping lanes. It's like, my opinion, even though I wouldn't die on this hill and I wouldn't defend this, and I don't ever make videos about this, would be, I'm very sympathetic to the idea that we actually cause more harm than good with our meddling in all these countries. But I am open to the fact that I could be wrong about that. And actually, and again, to steelman US aid, well, why did we spend $70,000 on a transgender opera? What Mike Benz clearly stated was, it's not about like promoting transgenderism or whatever. It's that I think the example was Bangladesh. We wanted to put a military base in Bangladesh so we could secure shipping lanes around there, but the government didn't want to. So what did we do? We needed to overthrow that government or get regime change in so that there would be a more favorable government to allow us to build a military base.
If you
And
want to make the argument that promoting America, well, I'm going to agree. You don't even have
let
to
me make the
finish.
point,
Okay,
because
okay,
let me make the point for your audience and mine, because I do a bad job of articulating facts because I'm the vibes guy. The reason we spent that money on the transgender opera thing or whatever was because people who are left-wing were in the opposition government. So they wanted to rally people who were left-wing to overthrow the government so we could put a military base there, so we could secure shipping lanes.
Yeah,
so
it's about
we could
promoting
have
U.S. interests. It's not
Right,
about,
so
well,
you and
these
I
people are
can live in
starving, let's go help them. It's,
healthy. Correct.
if I help these starving people, will they give me something back?
Yes, and the right-wingers are wrong, because it's not even about like, oh my God, the US aid is they're funding transgender people just to get more transgender people in the world. It's like, A, that's not how it works, but B, like that's not even what it's happening. It's literally a cynical US foreign policy thing.
Okay.
Now, if I were a right-winger, I would just beat look at that, 70,000 to a US aid or US aid to transgender thing and just play the media game. But I don't believe in doing that.
And I
believe in
understand
saying what
that,
believe
but
to
I
be
guess
true.
this is my then issue with your being a radical centrist on this issue.
Hit me.
Is right now there's one party that is advocating for completely dismantling this in its entirety, which is going to cause a lot of deaths. Already has caused a lot of deaths, caused a bunch of starvation in places. And regardless of why we do this and what is actually happening, the material outcomes is people need this medicine, people need this food, people need this whatever. There is some stuff that maybe you and I could both agree on is wasteful, but one party is saying, let's fucking gut this because it's stupid and I want to get rid of it.
Yeah.
And we can get into the conspiracies about the fact that USAID was investigating Elon Musk's involvement with Starlink and all that, but maybe that's not why.
I don't even know anything about that.
I don't know enough about it to say it's even valid. The point is,
Okay.
you're taking the centrist position between, hey, I think that we should keep this, and maybe this has some fraud and waste in it, and let's delete this entirely. Do you not see how like that is kind of...
I'll tell you again what I said and what I believe. I agree with Mike Benz's diagnosis that he thinks, and he's researched this more than anyone, as far as I know, and he's reliable for the reasons I gave. And he's the one that gave me the example of how
he's
here's
like
the
a
why the
white
right wingers are
nationalist,
wrong.
though, right?
Okay, have you seen my haircut?
Well, no, I mean like literally, he's like, hey, we should.
He looks like a white nationalist, or he is a white nationalist?
Here, I have sources for this. Here, let me hand them to you real quick.
Oh, he's a white nationalist?
Mike Pence, yeah.
Well, now I like him even better.
See, there's like when I would say something like that, I'd be like, I'm joking, but for you, I'm like, I mean, I don't think you're a white nationalist, but like,
I know, yeah, and I purposely am leaving it ambiguous because I'm sick
wait,
of
why? Why
dealing
would you
with
not
it.
want to not?
Because
Look,
it's a better way to deal with
everyone
stupid
calls me a
people.
lib cuck soy boy, and I'm not going to be like, oh, you know what? Fuck it,
You
I'm
ever
going to
watch? Do you know who
embrace.
J-Reg is? Do you know who J-Reg is?
Yeah, we talk. Me and J-Reg talk. I watched your
Oh,
conversation
you do?
with him. Yeah.
Okay, well, I've learned a lot from J-Reg.
Okay. So yeah, I'm gonna link you this NBC article in Discord. This is about Michael Benz and his alt-right persona online and how he's like literally a fucking white nationalist person. But I mean, hey, you can like not agree with this or think it's an invalid source. I just defer to this person as like
based
hey,
on
well,
based on your research and based on whatever this article says, what you put a probability. What is the probability that he is a like white supremacist?
it depends on how you use that term. Can I just read you a little of this article?
Sure.
So, okay, so this is a pseudonym Frame Game. Frame Game posted videos, participated in podcasts and live streams during the rise of the alt-right following Donald Trump's election. Frame Game avoided showing his face in his videos or appearances, during which he pushed a variety of far-right narratives, including the Great Replacement Theory, that posits the white race is being eradicated in America for politics and profit. In others, Frame Game said he was a white identitarian, rallied against the idea of diversity, and made montages urging white viewers to unite under the banner of race. In interviews with white nationalists, Frame Game blamed Jews for controlling the media and for the decline of the white race. If you were to remove the Jewish influence on the West, he said in one video, white people would not face the threat of white genocide that they currently do. That sounds pretty white supremacist, white nationalist to me. I know you're
Mike Pence. Does that change any of the facts around what he reported on USAID?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if I would trust him less about it. I think clearly he's got a white identitarian agenda, and I wouldn't necessarily use him as my source for my entire position on USAID.
This is a very
especially when like okay. Here's the thing. When you say
can I make this point? Can I make this point?
Well,
can I make this point?
Sure.
This is a fundamental intuition that we appear not to share. Because I, for example, have absolutely zero issue whatsoever taking Destiny's word on a lot of things.
Okay.
Are you aware that Destiny is
a sex pest?
Terrible fucking person?
Yeah.
By all appearances?
Yeah, but
okay.
I don't think that
being
a sex pest
on whether or not I think the facts that he presents at any given time are facts or not.
Yeah,
do I think that
well,
does it cause me to regard him with skepticism? Yeah.
Two things. One, when you get too close, I think you're past your mic. It like echoes off your monitor, so just don't put your mouth like past the pop filter. Second thing, yeah, Jackson's a horrible person, sex pest, right? If he were to start talking about, revenge porn laws or any of the things that he's been involved in, I would take that with a little bit more skepticism. And when someone is involved with our aid being given out to DEI programs or any or other programs that might promote something that the right wing, like you said, is like, oh, it's trans, oh, it's minorities, whatever, and he's a white identitarian, I would take into a question how he categorizes that money and whether or not it's wasteful. And
I would go,
the other
I'm
thing
need
is
to double check all the facts that he cites. Oh wait, I did.
I wouldn't write a Substack article where my entire opinion is informed by this guy. I would do some other research on where USAID would go.
There.
Well, obviously, because you already wrote it. But like, why is he your primary source? Why is the Tucker Carlson interview and a Breaking Points and a Joe Rogan your primary sources? Like, did you? Like, let me be clear. I'm not trying to claim that I'm from a position of authority. Like, I'm some fucking USAID expert. I didn't even know this shit existed. Like, this organization existed until 2 months ago. Okay, I'm a fucking idiot too. But
me neither.
But if I was going to write an article about it,
it's almost like there's other things we could be talking about that are more interesting, that we're both more knowledgeable.
I am much more interested in the fact that like thousands, if not millions, of people might be dying because of this than I am about whether or not mimetic feudalism is the thing. Like this. That's like so not important.
Okay, hold on.
I read all your Substack. I know all of your ideas. Don't worry.
Well,
all your Substack ideas. I know it's recent.
I've now identified the fundamental disagreement between you and I. You think that politics is more important than political philosophy?
Only insofar as, unless you're talking about how political philosophy can influence politics. Like, my material reality is more important than an idea, unless that idea is going to change my material reality.
Yeah, that's by definition. That's pragmatism, essentially. So I would agree with that.
Okay.
That's like my fundamental philosophy.
Right, and sort of your whole thing about radical centrism and like memetics and you know the spreading of ideas is if
You disagree with the whole mimetic? Like you don't.
You know, it's funny. I don't. I think this is one of the things I don't disagree
That's
with
my
you.
point.
But what I think
FD
is
Signifier loves me because of that shit.
oh man,
That's why he
the,
told you
the
I'm his
greatest
favorite
sin. The
problematic
greatest
white
sin.
guy.
The greatest sin is that you made me think less of FD Signifier for recommending you because it's. I think it's sophist bullshit. Because I think if you looked into this for 10 seconds, you could
The
find
mimetic stuff?
Yes. No. Sorry.
Okay, now this is the most interesting thing.
Hold on. Spreading ideas the way that you have described them is
Yeah.
true. So just for the context for my audience, your
Please.
idea of mimetic feudalism is, look, you could be someone with the largest platform in the world. You could be someone with a very small platform, but a good idea can spread throughout society, throughout a culture, based on how good of that vibe is, how good that idea is, how good that how that resonates with the people that see it. Right? That's more or less kind of how your mimetic feudalism evolves. And you call it feudalism because it's yes.
Well, the whole thing I call applied sociology because I like to pretend I'm a pseudo academic.
Well, do you think that
Are you referring specifically to the feudalism Substack I wrote? Because there's the meme adoption curve.
That is the one I read, and I think I also watched the video on this mimetic feudalism. Yeah.
And I'm gonna stop writing. I wish my Substacks suck compared to my videos. Just FYI, my videos are much better.
Well, sometimes it's like 1-to-1, like the script of your video, right? Like the Brett Cooper one.
No, those are first
sorry,
drafts.
the Curve one is like pretty damn close, right?
The main ideas are often there, but I usually refine them a lot more. But okay, fair enough.
Sure.
Like, yeah.
I'm not shitting on you for that. If I were to do a Substack, I'd probably
What is the? How is it
paste my-
sophistry?
Because this stuff exists. People are already talking about this. There's such a thing as studying how memes. First of all, the word meme in and of itself is to describe an idea pervasive through society.
Right,
imitation of that.
It's analogous to
And
Gene.
so you've invented this, and this is probably because you like Jordan Peterson. This like insane like
used to.
schizograph and still wow.
I used to like Jordan Peterson.
Oh, you don't like him anymore? Okay, well, all right. Hey,
Not so much.
hey, I've raised the agreement from 5 to 6% now, and like the
we
more
go.
we can grab in this
I think
conversation,
we're more.
the better.
I think realistically, if we hash this out, I think we're probably at 70-80%.
I don't think so. Okay,
I don't really think we actually disagree on that much based on what I've heard from this.
you're
conversation.
happier that Trump won over Kamala because of the border, because
Yeah,
of
but
Chinese people coming over.
when we
to
break
it.
down all the reasons, I think we actually align on a lot.
Uh,
Well, that's what. Yeah, fair enough. That's a 20% we disagree, but that's fine.
all right. The
Meme
reason I
theory,
call it
you think it's
sophistry. The
sophistry,
reason I
yeah.
call it sophistry. No, meme theory. The idea of how an idea spreads through society is not sophistry. And this is why I'm like, you're not wrong to talk about this. What sophistry is to take this concept that is studied by sociologists that you can find papers on. And by the way, I'm not an expert on this. I Googled it for 5 minutes and I was like, oh yeah, people have written papers on this. And then to say, well, actually, I have my idea of meme feudalism, and it's about this like mushroom extending structure. And here's this like, z-axis,
rhizomatic,
XY, rhizomatic structure of mushrooms and all this. And to say like,
It's a
well, here's
delusive
my
guitar
idea.
term, very postmodern philosophy. I borrowed from postmodern philosophy.
It's
I was a
the
right-winger,
idea
I'd
that you're
give
making this as like your own idea, as if this isn't something that exists. Like applied sociology. That's what sociology is applied. Like that is the whole field is like, hey, let's study this and talk.
I
about
think you're
this
just
and-
mad you didn't coin the term first. You're just mad I got there first.
The difference between you and me is I have a conversation with JJ. I think you watched it, where I think, oh, this something is called piss politics. It's when we're shoving them, their faces in the piss,
Yes,
and like
that's
but-
right. Yes,
which is like
I
it's
remember that.
funny. But like I know that's not my idea. I'm not gonna pretend like this is some like fleshed out like thing. I'm not gonna draw diagrams and graphs about it because it's like it's a thing that people have been saying we should do, and I'm saying, oh, let's just give it a dumb name,
Well, first
whatever.
off,
This
I
is
don't
dumb.
know. I mean, I've never. When did I claim that this is my novel idea? It's a synthesis of different frameworks. It's a recapitulation.
Why
of
does this
an
need to
idea.
have? Why? You're
'Cause
taking
it's funny. I'm
the
advancing
idea,
the field of pseudo-academic applied sociology.
the idea that vibes
This is just you
matter
understand that
and
this is
memes
totally just your
spread.
opinion, right? You know, CJ the X
That's
loves
what
it, FD
everything is.
Signifier loves it.
Yeah, and I think less of them for some reason. I don't know why they're like.
that's
I don't know
fine.
how they can
Fair-
read this
okay.
stuff and be like, oh,
I'm not in the
goody, goody,
business of
goody.
arguing about your particular preference or opinion of how I go about doing something aesthetically.
Okay. All right. I think it's
All the ideas. You don't disagree with the ideas themselves. You just disagree that I'm basically making.
yeah.
I'm
Well, it
basically
would be
puffing
like if I
myself up.
talked about like, hey, if you take your shirt off and flex in front of a camera, people will give you more views. And I'm gonna call this like aesthetic pervasiveness. And this is my concept of like how people are attracted to naked bodies and like just reinventing.
Yeah.
And
If you had a
applying these, like,
persona of a
pseudo-
fucking edgy, douchey, ironic guy, that might work.
Is your whole thing a persona? This is what I asked at the beginning. Is this a joke?
I don't know what's a joke anymore. I hung around with J-Reg too long.
Well, J-Reg's a whole different beast. He's under like 17 layers of irony. So like, I don't even know if he could be a robot, like in a fucking horse suit and a fucking all sorts of different things.
Regard me with the same skepticism.
Yeah, but he's. God, I don't want to be mean to you. I really don't want to be mean to you.
Oh, really? You don't want to be mean to me? Yeah,
this is not being mean, by the way. This is not
Please
being
be mean to me.
I
would actually be
okay. Well, J-Reg's funny. Although
you
did make me laugh in your League of Politics.
I know I'm not funny.
No, you sometimes.
I'm neither funny.
You've made me laugh a
nor
couple times in this conversation. Oh, I agree with that.
Well, then what did you mean by J-Reg's funny?
J-Reg's funny. It's a spectrum. We can't have
I'm
funniest.
You know what? I'm so arrogant enough, or I guess I'm so humble. I'm so humble enough that I'm willing to accept that J-Reg might be funnier than me. Look, as long as you don't think I'm spreading misinformation, I don't care if people think that I'm a douche. I would care if they think I'm saying something that's false. So as long as I'm not saying anything false.
Well, I do think you're saying false thing. I don't think you're a douche. Well, I don't know. Maybe you're a douchebag. I don't think you're a douchebag. I think you're saying.
Of course I am.
I think if you had the same platform as Tucker Carlson, you'd be an incredibly harmful person because you'd be spreading these ideas that are so lost in the sauce and have nothing to do with like politics that you are.
I believe that you believe that,
and you're spreading misinformation and you're telling people that they should care about this like inane bullshit when like we are currently in a cultural moment where people are dying because of these stupid fucking policies and you're listening to this like white nationalist Joe Rogan guest about.
I think you are narrow. Yeah, I think you are narrow-minded, and your approach to talking about these issues only serves to drive further division and lessen the likelihood that people who are rapidly polarizing can actually get along, which is what we need.
Well, what's crazy is like I have a whole video on talking to people I disagree with, and obviously
I have a video saying I'm not racist, so you know.
Well, no, I'm not saying that disproves anything. I'm saying what the distinguishing thing here is when I talk to like a Trump supporter in real life and I try to like make that connection, like I'll try to reach across the aisle. I'm not gonna like demonize them outright. Like I'll see how far I can pull them, and this is what you apparently do with your racist friend. I do this with my Republican friends. I think that's a whole different ball game than I have a platform on the internet to thousands of people. And in a moment where a lot of terrible things are happening that you would agree are terrible, you don't agree that mass deportations are good. You're running defense for the party that is doing all these ostensibly terrible things and saying, well, actually, I'm a centrist because I'm taking the best ideas from both. But the best ideas I'm taking from this party are like they're inane little like, oh, maybe it would be good if we didn't kill people and followed the 10 Commandments. And the ideas I'm taking for this party is, yeah, I disagree with mass deportations, but I am happier that Trump won over Kamala. It's like, what do you even give a shit? Like, or is this just all kind of a game?
I think I care more than you do, and I think I'm more serious about it, because if you were as serious as I would, you wouldn't be a different person off camera than you are on camera, which is what it sounds like you're saying.
Wait,
when I'm talking to my Trump supporters,
I'm a different person on and off?
Yeah, you just said when I'm talking to Trump supporters, I'll tell them one thing, but when I'm on my platform, I'm gonna fucking call them.
No. I'm saying if you have a platform and I'm talking to someone who is like if I'm talking to Michael Knowles, like I did, right? I'm not going to be like, well, hey, like buddy, like let's try to find some common ground, because I think
I believe that.
Like an ostensibly terrible person, not you, him.
Cool.
He's an ostensibly terrible person who needs to be pushed back on. Versus if I'm talking to someone on a human level, I'm not like there's almost no common ground that's going to be found between.
Interesting. Okay, you and I have different relationships to our audience. I think you think your audience is stupider than I think my audience is.
I think people are stupid
because my audience is dumb as fuck. Look at us converging on the same jokes. Like I said at the beginning with Stephen Wolf, the first 15 minutes of that was him saying we need blasphemy laws.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I trust that anyone in my audience, certainly, who sees that and goes, well, this guy's fucking dumb, and I sure as fuck am not going to support Christian nationalism.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you say, but Paul, you need to state that explicitly and be a dick to the guy. Like, no, I don't.
Well, you don't have to be a dick about it. You just be like, hey, I think this is ridiculous. Like you did. You push back on that.
Which is what I said.
Right. And you push back on that thing, and I appreciate that. But do you not think there's a non-zero... Look, okay, if you think there is even a percentage chance that the Chinese nationals have a plan to shut down our American power grid through the southern border, it
sounds like we both agree there's a 100% chance that they've been working on it.
They've talked about it, yes. Not that it's a very likely outcome. Now...
Okay, fine.
Whatever percentage you put on it, do you think there's a chance that any one of the 27,000 people that are subscribed to you might be convinced by someone that they've never been introduced to before, like a Stephen Wolf, and start advocating for a Christian nationalist,
not if they're my viewers, no.
Not,
of course not.
Not if they're your viewers.
Correct.
Do you think every viewer is 100% ideologically aligned with you?
No. No. Let me say, not if they have common sense, not if they're for free speech, which
What?
most people are.
Not if they have common sense.
We hold on. We just have fundamentally different views on how this works. If I bring a guy on here and he tells everyone that he's for blasphemy laws, which is, to be clear, and I said it there and I'll say it again, the dumbest fucking shit in the world.
Yes.
Which will be turned against you and is idiotic.
Okay.
I trust that people, and this is an assumption, and this is not everyone, but most people have enough common sense, at least at this point in the world.
Well, so you admit it's not all of them, though.
Yeah. Okay. Of course not. Do you think anyone who watches your videos might come away with some idea that you didn't intend them to come away with?
Yeah. Why was I'm much more careful about who I'm bringing on and why this whole conversation I'm pushing back on what I think are a bunch of stupid
your audience
ideas.
is on average stupider than I do.
No,
I think mine is.
I think that people are
the
susceptible
average
to
person that
ideas,
comes
and
across-
if you put people and present them with ideas and exclusive kinds of ideas, regardless of how extreme or not extreme they are, they're going to be more exposed to that. Which is why platforming people is a very dangerous game. And when you do platform people, you have to push back on the things that are really, really fucking crazy.
We have,
So if you push back on the blasphemy laws and the free speech, which I acknowledge is insane, and most of your people would probably be like, yeah, like I don't think this guy is, has what it takes,
Most of
right?
your audience would agree with that.
100% of, well, no, not 100% of my audience would be anti-free speech. I think there's some chunk of them would be like, oh yeah, blasphemy laws, that might be cool, right? Like you'd probably say the left wing.
And
would
do you
be
think it's your job to now filter all of your content to appeal to these people?
Yes, it's your job. You have a responsibility for the people in your audience.
We have fundamentally different views on how this. Yeah, I do, but not 100% responsibility for every single one of them.
That's
why. No, hold on. This is actually a completely different perspective we have here.
Okay.
My job, I have one job. Say what I believe to be true.
Okay.
No, it's not even that. When I'm on camera and when I'm making videos about whatever I happen to be interested in, don't lie. That's my one rule.
Okay.
That's it. And then I trust that whatever outcome occurs is the best outcome. But Paul, what if someone came on and saw you discussing blasphemy laws and they suddenly got converted? There's absolutely fucking nothing I could have done about that.
You could have not had the blasphemy law guys on your fucking show, dude.
More people got turned off by that than got turned on by that. Not speaking sexually.
And how many people do you think came away from that?
I think that conversation made it less likely that Stephen Wolf will get his Christian nationalist ways. Because all these people, because my massive platform, just saw him telling everyone he's in favor of blasphemy laws.
Okay.
Dumbass.
And you don't think there's any percentage of your audience that say, okay, I think this guy's stupid, I'm writing him off. And yet, the way that they're talking about...
Did you watch my conversation with J-Reg?
I did, but I forgot most of what happened because I haven't rewatched it.
Boom! Do I have a responsibility as a content creator? No. Boom. Goodbye.
That's just like argument.
That's what it was. Do you think when Dave Chappelle tells a racist joke that he shouldn't tell that joke because someone might think that it's racist?
That's literally what Chris Rock did with the whole black people versus N-words, because he realized that a bunch of racist white people were co-opting his joke to like be more racist, and he said, you know what? The utility that I get out of this funny joke is not worth.
I see. So you think that when a comedian tells not even a comedian, someone with a massive platform that does very serious social commentary, which Dave Chappelle absolutely does, when he makes a joke that's racist, you think he shouldn't do that?
I think that if you are Dave Chappelle and you're going to do that, your body of work should speak with you and say, okay, clearly this guy is not a racist person. In fact, I don't even agree with the Chris Rock saying, oh, I should stop using this thing. Because if you watch Chris Rock, you know that he's not being a racist. You know that he's not condemning N-words, as he puts it, right?
Yeah, but some people might.
Yeah, some people might. And I'm not going to say you're going to catch 100% of every bad actor that's ever going to come away from watching your stuff. That's not what I'm advocating for. That's the extreme. What I'm saying is you have a responsibility when you platform a Christian nationalist who's advocating for some pretty fucking crazy stuff. And also, again, vehemently anti-gay person who you've now turned some percentage of your audience onto. And the only things you really push back on are, well, I don't like this blasphemy law thing.
I turned more of a percentage of my audience off than on. I
think you turned 100% of your audience on. I hope so. Oh, cool. So you can make that joke and I can't? All right, cool. Yeah.
It's a separate thing.
Yeah.
I think I did exactly what I wanted to do. Just like when I debate Andrew Wilson. Andrew Wilson says all kinds of crazy fucking shit.
Yeah, he's insane. Yeah. And
Do you think I should confront Destiny when I'm debating him about his fucking sexual escapades, given how much he talks about?
I'm just not going to talk to him anymore because of that shit.
Do you think I have an obligation?
If you still talk to him?
Yeah, if I talk to him again.
Because he doesn't seem very remorseful about it. You should
That one
probably
I
call him
actually
out on
kind of
that.
believe. That one I actually do kind of believe, because I think a lot of my
You don't
audience
think maybe
actually
if he
respects Destiny.
and also if he respects your opinion anyway, that he should maybe take into consideration, yeah,
Well,
like,
had
this
this
is
not,
terrible.
believe it or not, had this not happened, actually, I was planning on my next conversation to get into some of this stuff, which has been my fundamental curiosity the whole time, which is, Destiny, how do you think your childhood has affected who you are today? Because that's fundamentally the lens of how I view everything.
Can we talk about that? Actually,
Yeah.
I saw in your CJ conversation, and this maybe was a joke, but you mentioned your parents fought a lot, and like you would always see like both of their sides and like what they had
Yes.
to offer. Do you think that's
Oh
why
my
you're
God,
centrist?
the radical centrist joke suddenly makes so much sense.
Well, but
Yes,
is that like
I'm
actually
condemned.
like what has informed your
Yes.
politics?
My parents, they both loved me very much.
Yeah.
But they did not get along well. I put extremely mildly, let's say. And it would be, I'd hear my mom's side of the story and I'd hear my dad's side of the story.
And
Oh,
you
your
take the
mom's
best parts of
wrong for
both.
this and this. Yeah, but I would see both their perspectives, and then I would see what the fight actually would be. And I saw what they didn't see. And for like 20 years that happened, and I kind of built up a muscle for it. And so maybe, just maybe, one's childhood affects who they are as an adult, and maybe, just maybe,
Turn it around on me.
one's sense of humor.
What's my childhood? Why am I the way I am?
I don't know.
No, I'm
I'm
saying no. Speculate, armchair psychoanalyze me. I'm just
I
curious.
have no fucking clue.
Oh, come on. You gotta just make something up. Something about me being a fucking libtard. What are my parents like? I'll give you a couple seconds to think about it. I'm not gonna hold this against you. I just think it'd be funny.
There's so a million ways. All right. Let me guess. Let me think. Were you pretty small and weak in high school?
Close. What's the next most likely thing?
Of being small and weak?
That would convince someone to get strong and fit.
Were you beat up a lot?
No. Okay. I was fat. I was fatter. I was chunkier.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
Okay.
Respect.
And that's why I'm a progressive, because I was fat and I want to redistribute the mass to other parts of my body.
Listen, that's based. I'm for that.
Yeah. Do you work out? I asked
I do
again.
work out,
Yeah.
yes. I know. I do. Yes. I was at the gym at 5:30 this morning.
Hell yeah. Well, you shouldn't work out in the morning. You're burning all your gains, dude.
Really? What do you mean?
Well, if you don't eat before, then you're burning whatever reserves you
Well,
have.
I eat within within 1 hour.
You eat at
Like,
4:30 a.m., dude?
No, I eat within 1 hour after the workout.
No, you got to do it
Your
before.
No, your metabolic window's at 1 hour.
This is
post-workout.
bro science. All right, we can get off this.
Yeah, we're good.
I don't fucking know shit. I mean,
My
obviously,
childhood.
I know something.
My point is, yes, my parents fought a ton, and that affected why I try to see the best in both sides. Now, what is the obvious danger that produced, and the one that you probably think is true?
That
Well, Paul,
one
not all
side
sides
are equally,
Well,
yeah.
correct.
Mhm.
And hence, by the way, what is your actual name? You told me it last
It's
time.
Niels.
got an S
You
at
can
the
call
end.
me Niels. Yeah, Niels.
Niels. That's right.
Yes.
For some reason, I thought it was like Dirks, like Dirks Bentley, but Niels.
You can call me Dirks
Niels.
Bentley. That's a cool name. I felt like my own detective agency. Dirks.
Yeah.
Dirks Bentley,
Dirks-
PI.
That's a country artist. Niels,
Hmm.
the permanent problem that I have, and this is a real problem, and
Mhm.
I'll drop the irony for those who are autistic enough, too autistic to be able to tell. I genuinely worry about the degree to which I care too much about political issues that I have no control over.
Yeah, that can
Or
rot your
virtually
brain.
no control over.
100%. It's
Correct,
been on
and
my
that is
mind for
100% a result of my childhood, which is externalizing internal conflict. Well, if mom and dad get in a fight, then I feel bad. So what's my job? To not feel bad? Go solve other people's problems. And what is the ultimate archetypal version of that?
Yeah. You talked about this in the CJ. It's like, what is your
Yeah.
mission statement of your channel? And it's to try to. You agree this is
Basically,
ambitious.
to
Try to
stop
solve the
everyone to
fighting.
Yeah, stop everyone from hating each other.
Do
Or stop
you-
as many people as I can, because some people are doomed.
But okay, and
Am I aware
hold
of
on.
the pathological danger that presents by trying to both sides people that shouldn't be both sides? Yes, I'm very aware of
let's skip that. And this is me being 100% sincere. I'm turning aggro down to 0. Before it was at 2. All right.
that. Nobody loves low aggro Niels more than I do.
Do you think that saying that someone like a Brett Cooper, a Daily Wire, I fully
me?
Brett Cooper, like a Daily Wire, not
Daily Wire?
former Daily Wire
Ah,
pundit.
that's almost the most important detail and the reason I made the video.
In the video that you were quoting, her first video on her channel, she is
Yeah.
talking about the dangers of all of the pro-vaccine people deep-throated support of Donald Trump, like pro every conservative thing you could think of.
Yeah,
But
right.
she's saying, hey, let's not cancel liberals who try to move a little right. Do you think that maybe that's
Yeah,
not
that
the
there are, yeah, and she markedly disagreed with Matt Walsh on
well,
Jeffree Star, for example, a member of the LGBT community, which I
great?
think is
She's
important.
not a horrible homophobe. She just supports the people that are going to
Yeah, but
overturn gay marriage. Like, great, okay, like that's
do you
radical
think Donald
centrism.
Trump's going to overturn gay marriage?
I think they're going to try. They've already introduced bills to do it.
Interesting.
You
Well,
think
look,
he's
Roe v.
not?
Wade got overturned.
Hey, you cut
It's
out
not. It's not
again. You're
impossible.
back.
Roe v. Wade got overturned. I wasn't expecting that to happen.
Right. Okay. So now I'm very much expecting us, the people that have been promising that and they
Yeah,
despise
2025.
Obergefell, want to get
Mhm.
rid of Obergefell. Why would I not think they're going to do that?
Gee, I mean, yeah, that's a problem.
Like-
I would very much disagree with that.
Okay.
Like that it would be bad.
Right,
I
and you're
believe it would be bad if they did.
Pushing people as like, hey, everyone, like I want to solve all the
I'm mo-
fighting.
I'm
By
more
the
worried
way,
about- I'm more
everyone
worried
go
about
emulate this
coordinated
person.
attacks on our infrastructure than I am about Obergefell getting overturned.
Well, one of those things is patently more likely in my mind. But also
Really?
again,
See, how would you? Honest question. How the fuck do you know?
well, because one of the parties in power right now is saying we want to do this and we're trying everything in our power to do this.
Okay,
And
right.
on
Yeah.
the other side, there is
China, who we're about to potentially gear up with war with, knows that this is the number one strategy and the most obvious fucking thing.
That's the number one strategy, is to have people come in over the southern border and shoot
Why wouldn't you?
substations. It's not about why wouldn't you. You think this is their number one. First of all, do you think you're so intelligent that you've discovered China's number one most effective war policy against the USA and they have no other way to?
I do think I'm so intelligent, but maybe not the number one more so. But the number one most obvious first thing on the brainstorming session when they get in the session and they're like,
Why do you
how
think,
do
why do
we
you think that?
fuck over America?
I think the Project 2025 thing and everything they've been saying, because they've been saying it. Why do you think China's definitely going to do this?
Because I think that the average Chinese general has an IQ above 70.
So because who told you this was the best strategy?
Deductive logic. America, China may or may not get in a war. America, China, preparing for war. What would China do in case of war? Well, given that the border is basically completely open, we can get people in, and we know for a fact they've gotten in. Why don't we send people up there, and then in the event that a war breaks out, we can have them do coordinated attacks on whether it's the infrastructure or telecommunications lines or U.S. military bases, stuff like that. Probably not U.S. military bases because it would, they want to disrupt the economy and all that.
Can I try deductive logic and tell me if I lose?
Yeah,
it? This is not.
please,
This is gonna sound
hit me.
condescending, but I promise you, this is just me just thinking about
No.
this. All right. I'm a Chinese general, and I'm planning on how to disrupt
What's your
America.
name? Huang Zhang?
Lu Xi. It's Luxi. Okay.
Okay.
And I say, I'm not gonna do the accent.
We should cut that out, by the way. Some people might think that
That's a real-
anti-Chinese racism is acceptable now.
Well, you can be anti-Chinese national if you're against them taking over Taiwan or something, but yeah, don't be racist against Chinese people, guys. Like one of the parties is. If I
Except the
think
communist ones. It's okay to be racist against the communist ones.
if I think that I want to disrupt the American grid system,
Yeah.
and I'm going to sit down with all my other generals and plan out this top secret plan to subvert American infrastructure. Do you think that maybe I might have an idea that is just ever so slightly more complicated than someone who's sitting around at their desk on the computer could figure out in 10 seconds?
Yeah, they probably have many, many, many plans.
And do you think the most likely one is the one that you thought of?
Oh, I think that's one likely one.
No, you think it's the most likely because it's your number one issue on why you think Donald Trump is good for the country on his immigration policy.
No, I just told you what I think. I think that it is whether or not likely. Again, I have no way of possibly knowing the probability, but it's more than zero, which is fairly high. And I have
everything more than zero is what is it, 0.1, 0.001?
True. I don't know. I mean, my honest, and again, this is just based on my
Vibes.
knowledge of reality. The probability that over the course of the next 40 years of my life, I will not experience living in a society of serious civil discord
I don't disagree
is
with this.
almost zero. Almost zero.
Yeah, I don't disagree
I'm
with
talking
this.
people I know could die.
Mhm.
I'm talking my life savings wiped out.
Well,
I'm talking power grid goes
I
out.
agree with
Something
you,
to that
but let me
effect.
be clear. People I know, their families are getting deported right now. They're losing their health care. They're losing their jobs because of the current party in power that
Yep.
you ostensibly are running a lot of defense for and telling people that the people that support them are the center.
Yep.
That's why I'm upset right
Yep.
now. Because as much
Yeah.
as
So now you understand my thing, which is
No,
the
maybe
stuff
not.
that's happening right now could happen on a massive scale. And is happening, by the way. There's plenty. Okay, okay, now this is getting to like, well, you know people who are affected negatively by the current administration.
Mhm.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, if a conservative tells me, illegal immigrants murdered my fucking daughter, I'd be
Mhm.
like, okay, I can't really argue with that. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, but then
What am I going
would
to
you
use
then
facts and logic? Well, statistically,
would
it's
you
like that
then
doesn't
support
work.
something like, well, that's bad, and let's talk about how we can secure the border better, and maybe we shouldn't deport all these people that are here
Yeah,
because
if I
you
was in
disagree
charge,
with
I
that.
would not deport people. Yeah.
Right, but you're running again. You're
Because I think the
ostensibly following
alternative is worse. I think the alternative is worse.
because you think the alternative is that China comes in and disrupts our power grid, and like the only way we could stop this is if
You
we
know what?
secure the
You
border.
know what? The only way that I end up like told you so in this conversation we're having is if it happens.
That's true. Hey,
Right? So there's
and I'll
literally no
concede that
scenario where I
if
win.
it happens,
I'm
and
just telling you, and I'm
and
not telling you that. I know, and like I said, obviously, I can be too ironic. I mean this to the bottom of my soul. Like I do not invest in my 401k or any retirement savings because the probability that I'll need that money sooner rather than later is pretty high.
I mean, but
So I'm telling you what I honestly
okay.
believe.
Actually,
Like,
I
so that's
unironically
paranoid.
don't think. No, no, no. Hey, look, if you are like more on the side of struggling, first I'd sell those
No,
Catans
I'm
because
not.
Catan is like
Not
$50.
really.
Like you can sell
Oh,
those.
that's
But
good.
yeah, like I would not say that's a good idea, but I understand it. I'm not even going to say that's a crazy idea. What I would say is crazy is that you said one of your strategies for long-term financial stability is to invest in meme coins. I think you said on like your
Yeah, that was a
2025
joke.
stuff. Okay, good.
was a joke.
Thank God, because that would.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Although I did make about $800-900 on Dogecoin.
Nice. You know, it's so funny. I know the guy who knows the inventor, and in 2011, he told me to buy it. And I told him, that's the stupidest fucking idea I've ever heard. And to this day, it is still the stupidest fucking idea I've ever heard. I just should have
Sure.
bought it.
My brother sold Bitcoin for like $250 one time.
Damn. Or that guy
Whole
bought,
Bitcoin.
bought a pizza for like 3 to 6 Bitcoin or some shit,
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, FOMO.
Anyway, so look, it sounds like we agree, and you are basically a centrist.
Yeah, I think
'Cause you're
everyone watched.
progressive.
Yep.
You're progressive, but you can be centrist and progressive. Those are not radical centrist. Excuse me.
Well,
Look,
hell,
I'm falling for my
let
own,
me
I'm
be
falling
very,
for my own traps.
let me be very serious. Would you call me centrist? I'm going to tell you some of my positions. All right. Progressive is in I support democratic socialism, some German
Give me
Nordic
specific
model.
policies. Give me specific policies.
I support moving to a mixed private-public option healthcare system that
Yep,
means that
agreed.
everyone's supported. Okay. I am pro-choice.
Yeah, with up until like the baby can feel pain.
Okay,
Like, I
so
don't know,
yeah,
5
like
or 6
like
months.
20 weeks, 24 weeks, whatever.
Yeah, whatever that
Sure.
is. Okay.
Gotcha.
What they have
Semantics.
in Europe.
Well, that's
No,
like 11,
okay.
12 weeks. That's a little more strict than what probably
Okay,
even
well,
I would do.
fine.
But I get
We
it.
agree
I
on
get it.
more
I get
shit.
it.
Okay.
I'm pro like addressing climate change. I think that's like an existential threat.
I think that climate change does pose a problem, and I think that we should move towards nuclear energy and put less pollutants in the air.
Okay.
Climate change, I'm way more worried about like AI than climate change, but sure, I think it's probably
Okay.
fine.
It's not the most existential to you, but you're still acknowledging it's a problem. And
Yeah,
you
I mean,
wanna-
I'm
we
pretty
should move to
sure like
nuclear.
even Bill Gates has been like, just to be clear, the world's not ending. Like,
Okay.
we can do things, and
Okay.
So, yeah,
I'm
okay.
not
so we
aligned
kind
with
of have to agree on that.
Democrats on gun policy. I think they go way too far, and I think there's better things that are way left of what the right is doing, but the Democrats don't know what they're doing. So I'm like pro gun ownership at the very least.
Okay. You're
Okay.
more right wing than I am as of right now.
Okay. So why do you call yourself
I think
center,
you shouldn't
then?
be able to buy a gun unless you have taken a training course on it. Which
I
is
agree
like,
with that. That's my policy.
All right, well, that fucking right wingers will call me progressive with the speed limit for that reason. Do
Okay.
you see why I don't give a shit when people say I'm a conservative from the left or vice versa?
Well, yeah. Well, because all of what you advocate for
You've
and
just
promote.
only seen me arguing with leftists. You haven't
No,
seen
I
me
just
arguing
watched
with
you
right-wingers.
argue with Stephen Wolf. I saw you argue. Well, I didn't actually watch you.
I was not
argue
arguing with Stephen Wolf.
That,
Also,
that-
just to be clear,
that's what I'm
just- hold
saying.
on. And to be clear here, there is on that specifically, because there is a practical element of like, I'm not going to bring someone on my stream and just shit on them immediately.
Okay.
Which is a clearly different strategy than you've taken.
Yes.
Okay, but I respect that. I'm willing to give it out. But like there is an element of like, even if someone's terrible, you have to be like, I'm not going to interrupt him in the middle of something that he says something stupid. Then you say, I should say that's more fucking stupid. Okay, fine. Maybe you could be right. Maybe I should have made it more clear that I think he may be a closeted racist, and I need to publicly condemn and let everyone know that I think you might be racist, so I don't get canceled. Maybe I should have done that. I don't know, or push back harder on things when I try to ask him on things. So, whatever.
Okay.
Sounds like we still agree on everything, though.
Well, hold on, because it's
Okay.
interesting to me
Gun
that we
control?
alleged. Well, no, we can end it there. Like that, those would be like some of my major policies, right? And you seem to agree with all those. So that's why it's so ridiculous to me that you're conspiracy brained enough to. Well, not conspiracy brained. Like we said, this is a plausible thing. But
Yeah, you want to talk about conspiracies for a little bit?
we can get into it, sure. But the fact that it's like, well, I'm supporting Trump over Kamala because not, regardless of all of those policies that I'm aligned with Niels on, that's not enough for me because of this one specific thing. Like, do you think that you and I would be 100%?
Hold on. I'll tell you what conservative positions I support, or things that I would say are things that more conservatives would agree on than progressives probably. I'm for mandatory civil service
Okay.
when you turn 18. A year or two, maybe. The details could be worked out.
That might
but
be
mandatory civil
conservative, but
service.
you know what they had in Germany for a while was you can either do military service.
Nazis? Oh, sorry.
No, the more recent Germans, not the current
good ones.
AfD, the good ones, right?
Yeah.
So they got rid of this, and I actually don't know if I would be anti this. It is anti-freedom, but I like the idea of a mandatory civil service. I don't know how much I'd support it. You can talk about the morality of forcing people into this, but it's like, hey, if you don't want to be in the military, you can go work in a retirement home. You can go work at a homeless shelter, like for a
That's why
year
I said civil
before
service, not
college.
military.
I
Yeah, don't
actually
think it should
really
be
like that.
military.
I think that builds community, and although it is. I think as long as you give enough options where it doesn't really feel like you're like forcing someone into a certain track, that's probably better for the country, and it doesn't really cause a lot of harm, and I might support that. I wouldn't even consider that conservative, though, necessarily.
Yeah, but surely more conservatives would. That's why I just said more conservatives would agree on that than Pete Buttigieg suggested it. So I agree it's not inherently conservative, but philosophically, it's restricting freedom.
Sure.
And progressives are more.
But I
on the
bet you
freedom side
have
of
more
things.
conservative positions than that.
Yeah, so that's one. Again, at the beginning, I think this is a philosophical point that Western civilization is built on Christian principles, and therefore we have to have some sort of explicit acknowledgement of that.
See, okay, wait. This is clarifying maybe a point we kind of moved off on. So
Okay.
I obviously acknowledge the founding fathers had this in mind. They thought
Which
about
puts you
this,
in the,
right?
there's many people on the left who would say, no, America is not a Christian nation.
Well, I think there's
And
a difference
I would-
between
Fair enough.
America was founded
Correct.
by Christians
On
or
Christian
Protestants or
principles.
whatever the fuck,
Yeah.
and also people that I would disagree with on a lot, versus what do we do about that now? Now I don't think we need to acknowledge it at all, insofar as like, yeah, it happened, but like, who gives a fuck? Let's talk about what's best for
that's
our
where we
country.
diverge completely.
Right. So why is it important?
Because how do I say this? The way that the moral systems that we take for granted are the result of being built on like Christian programming. And if we don't acknowledge that it's like fundamentally Christian programming, then we'll lose that morality.
So
This is, by the way, I'm aware this is a contentious thing that I certainly have no even desire to attempt to convince you of, because I couldn't even think of the right way to articulate it. But that is a belief I have.
But
it's like one of the central kind of claims.
Because I hear
Jordan
like
Peterson's
I
Maps
was gonna say like you watch a lot of Jordan Peterson, he claims this a lot. I have no evidence to suggest that just because we don't say that it's Christian, somehow we can't hold the same moral values that the best
it's
parts of
complicated.
Christianity.
Yeah, it's like, it's complicated. It's like saying, why do we take it for granted that we should treat everyone equally?
Why
Why do we take it for granted that everyone has
I think you can
inherent
pretty
worth?
easily raise a child to believe these things completely absent of any Christian influence, and just say, look, hey,
Yeah, but
you
why?
wouldn't like it if
I'm
someone
talking
did
about
this to you, so don't do it.
Yeah, but I'm saying in the reality that we live in,
Mhm.
why do we have the morality that we have?
Yeah, because of religions that they obviously could trace this
Yeah, and
back
my
to
argument
historical
would be
roots.
there's actually no way, I got to think of a word for this. There's no hypothetical that you could come up with that is actually based in reality that would posit an individual who is removed from that religious cultural programming
would
who
still
could then
have
come up with that. Yeah, because everyone is born into a culture. So there's literally
right,
no
but
such thing
there's
as a
not just
there's no
Christian
such thing as
cultures,
a
right? There's like, the Muslim cultures or whatever other
correct.
pagan cultures, and they have similar
Yeah,
ideals that we would probably find some overlap on. So why are we to think that we must
true.
acknowledge
But
this
there are
as a
also
Christian nation?
well, so I would agree with you 100% that that's the archetypes that every society converges on, kind of weirdly the same stories, even if they're independent from one another, whether they're across time or across space. But they differ in important ways. Like the Hindu caste system is explicitly the opposite of the Christian conception that all are equal before God, from the lowest peasant to the highest king.
Hmm.
Now, has that played out in history? Duh, no. Did Marxism, should we just abandon Marxism because communism was bad? No. So, but but surely you recognize the important moral difference between like someone who says the caste system is a divine hierarchy and everyone is equal before God.
Sure, but again, that's why I'm not going to
That's
use
why
either
that's why
of
you
these
and
as
I,
references for how I should act.
yes, but I'm saying,
Only how I shouldn't, if
yes, but I'm
anything.
saying the reason you and I take those for granted is because we're the result of a mimetic evolution that has at its base, or at least as a major part of it, the idea that all are created equal. It's like saying, well, why couldn't we come up with an idea independent of religion? For the same reason that you can't birth a human independent of
Culture, society.
no, even biologically. Like you have to have genetic material there to produce the human. Like I guess could you synthesize?
Right, but like you
could it
don't
be
think
totally
that
like
these
silicon
things
based? Like fine,
these things
that's not the point.
existed before Christianity, these things existed before Islam, these things existed before
Correct.
all
Yeah,
of
they
these
started out in the
religions.
Old Testament. Yes.
But even before that, people knew like, hey, maybe we should,
Correct.
like people killed
Yes.
each other, but it's like, hey,
Hence your earlier point about different religions converge on the same moral principles, like treat your neighbor properly.
right, so why does it matter that it came from that? Like we can acknowledge it, we can learn history, but why do we have to acknowledge
Because
like
yeah,
what is your proposal of acknowledgement? Like just that we say like, 'cause,
well,
like I'm saying, yeah, I know it came from that. That's history. What do you think we should be doing prescriptively in society to
I
acknowledge
don't know.
this?
I think that we should. I think that we have to have an American mythology, and we have to choose who the heroes in our mythology are. And
Can we,
we did it with like Martin
we
Luther
like
King and
oh, okay, yeah. Can we like drill down to like a specific one of these? Like
yeah, like Martin, like they call them the founding fathers. Obviously, that's been complicated as of late
mhm.
because we found out they owned slaves, which is much to everyone's surprise.
We didn't find out, right? I mean,
Yeah, yeah, right. And Martin Luther King, believe it or not, did not have the most progressive views on gay people, being
yeah,
a Southern
and he
black
was
Baptist minister in
yeah,
1960.
sure.
Um,
But isn't this
but
more to the idea that we shouldn't lionize any one person or dogma or anything, and that we should try to
well,
collectively
except
come to better
for the
ideas?
archetypal perfect person, that's sort of the advantage of religion. Is like Jesus theoretically, in principle, is the archetypal perfect person. Now you
So
can say, well, what about the Bible verses where he talked about not beating your slave but still keeping them? Like, that's why I'm not fully a Christian, because I don't think it was 100% right the first go around. But I do think the core ideas are there, and we need to acknowledge that because we can't come up with them rationally otherwise.
wait, so you're not Christian? You're just like Christian adjacent? Adjacent?
I'm Christian adjacent, yeah. I probably
Okay.
believe in God, and I think the Bible's pretty captures it, and I'm afraid to do psychedelics.
Okay. Interesting.
So
Okay.
that tells you what my religious belief is.
I don't. Maybe this is just a lack of understanding on my part. I feel like you're. I don't
Certainly
really.
is. You seem to you
Yeah, I don't
based on how
really
based on how
understand what you're
wonderful this
advocating
conversation
for.
based on how wonderful this conversation is going now, given how it started.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you fully understood me at all to begin with.
No, it's
Which is
not.
my-
It's
which
not
is,
a
to be
lack
fair-
of
to be
understanding
fair-
because I'm like,
Well,
I
hold on.
don't
To
get
be
it. I'm
fair,
just
this
like,
is my problem because if anyone
why?
watches 20 of my videos and comes away with the wrong impression, that speaks to my
I don't know.
inability to
Well,
communicate
look, first of
properly.
all, everyone in my audience, if you think I've been too harsh on PF Young, obviously his channel's in the description. You can go watch all these and figure out your own opinions on this.
please
And please go
don't.
check them out. And for the
Don't
record,
watch my debate with
for the
Destiny.
record, in good faith to PF Young, when I reached out to him, I was the smaller channel. I just got lucky with my last video. So he
Oh yeah,
is
the one accusing
ostensibly
Matt Walsh of being racist.
accusing.
Dude, fuck you, bro. Matt Walsh is cool as fuck.
Okay, now you're joking.
I
All
think
right.
yes, I am joking.
All right, let's try
That
to
is
end this off on a less mean pot because you've apparently been too mean. Let's talk a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah.
What's your favorite conspiracy? Well, I don't know. Maybe it'll be so stupid I'll be mad at you.
What do you define as a conspiracy theory?
Something with
'Cause
like very
J.J.
little
McCullough's
evidence to prove it, but there is, a suggestion based on little clues here and there that there is something happening behind the scenes that they don't want you to know about, promoting an agenda, causing an event to happen, things that have come to light in the past, Operation Mockingbird, Operation Northwood, things that happen. We know these things happen, but we can't prove them
we
at the
didn't
current
know
moment.
at the time.
Yeah, but
We
I would
only
say
we only
most
know they
conspiracy
happened,
theories
finding
are
out
probably not
afterwards.
true, and people use those ones that did come true to validate
Yes,
ones
I
that are
believe
not
that
true.
happens. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So is Operation Northwoods would you call that a conspiracy theory?
If someone at the time, having tried to talk about it before it had been released to the public, had said, "Hey, I think the government's doing this," and everyone's like,
Yeah.
"You're crazy," and they're like, "Well, I seen some like hints of it here or here or here," that would have been a conspiracy theory, and it would have been vindicated when it became released. Those documents became released.
Okay.
So, for
So
example, if
that
someone
does not
says,
sound like
someone says
the way
Bush
you
did
just defined
9/11.
it sounds like someone who has foresight is a
No, it's like,
strong
look,
foreknowledge.
because I'm trying to like
Yeah.
imagine the evidence, but let's pick something that hasn't been proven, right? That's still a conspiracy. Like Bush did 9/11, right? Like, I'm not saying that's impossible. I'm not saying that there's just not enough evidence for me to believe it solidly. There are just hints that you
Yeah.
could draw a narrative around to show that that is what happened, regardless of
Like
whether or
what?
not it is.
What kind of hints do you think Bush did 9/11?
You could talk about, well, he used it as a justification to go after Saddam Hussein because he was mad about the Gulf War because his dad had a gripe with him and it never got resolved. You could say that it was part of his
Fucking-
plan to expand.
All
the
goes back to
security-
childhood, bro. I'm telling
security
you. Fucking
state or
9/11
whatever.
was because George H.W. was, or which one's the older one? H.W.
HW is the older one. Yeah.
Yeah, H.W. was mean to his kid. So then we had.
You could
9/11.
1,000 different reasons. Maybe it was to enrich Dick Cheney because he had stocks and was former CEO of Halliburton. Whatever, it doesn't matter. The point is we can't prove
Maybe
it.
Israel was involved.
I know how you get on that one. Yeah. Is that your number one conspiracy theory?
What do you
Or
mean
what is?
number one?
What's your like? This one's got to be true, guys. I have to tell everyone about this.
Oh, this one's got to be true.
There's no
that
way.
there are pedophile
Zero doubt.
blackmail rings used by intelligence agencies.
Is that a conspiracy? I thought we just knew that.
Yeah, J.J. McCullough would tell me that's a conspiracy. For the record.
Well, to be fair, I haven't like verified. I could have sworn there was like some indication of certain CIA documents that suggest that they do something like this to some people.
Wait. Okay, well, it depends on what you mean by. I guess I'm using conspiracy theory my definition of conspiracy theorist is what would your average, Democrat consider this to be? Like if I said, I think Bush did 9/11, they'd go, that's a conspiracy. I think the Earth is flat, that's a conspiracy. I think NASA was originally made by a bunch of fucking Nazis. They go, that's a conspiracy.
Well, why would they
But if
say
you find
that?
out,
That's
like,
just
oh,
true. I mean, you can look
Because
up.
most people don't know about that, so they would just go, well, that sounds ridiculous. Like NASA, yeah, the space
know.
program was started by a bunch of Nazis.
I thought
It's
that's
like,
pretty like well taught history about Operation Paperclip, right?
not my school, and not if it was, then you should tell all of my Democrat left-wing friends that because
And to be
They're not
fair,
listening
they
to me.
didn't stay Nazis when they came over to start NASA. That was kind of the whole point. Was like, hey, let's de-radicalize and use these people's knowledge.
yeah.
And-
Well, I don't know if this is true, but I believe Werner von Braun
Mhm.
hung the bodies of Jews outside his factory.
in America?
No, in Germany.
Oh, sure. These were Nazis.
But they weren't
in
anymore.
Germany.
Oh, that's fine. Listen, you
Oh no,
hang
they
as many
they,
Jews
they-
outside your factories. As you
I'm
want,
not
but when you
saying
come to
they just
America, it's no
came
problem.
all American
Oh,
and we
okay.
love them. I'm saying that like the implication when you say Nazis started the space program was like there's like someone might hear that who doesn't know and think, oh, like some
I see, I
Nazis
see.
took a boat over and snuck in and were like, oh, we are American, let's make the rockets, like that's a very different
Well,
thing versus hey,
when I say
America
Nazi,
took the brains of all the Germans and
the
said,
word Nazi,
get to
I
work,
use the word
asshole.
Nazi. I think I use the word satanic in the same way that most people use the word Nazi, which just means
bad.
very, very bad. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I don't even want to go through the whole Elon Sam Hyde bullshit thing because we wouldn't agree on how to use the
Yeah,
word there.
Well, for the record, Sam Hyde could very well be a Nazi, and he does appear to be very racist. And what he says is racist, and I think that he is probably a net negative. And one of the reasons I want to one of the reasons I have no problem appealing to right wingers and want to appeal to them is because I would rather have them listening to me than Sam Hyde. Because I think
That's
I'm
a
better
noble
person than
cause.
Sam Hyde.
But
So-
unfortunately, Sam Hyde is very
Many
funny.
would disagree.
So
I know I
yeah.
know.
And it's funny because the far right people are way funnier than the boring, bland neoconservatives who
I've
wish they
kind
were
of noticed
cool,
that.
which is very upsetting to me.
Hence, problem.
Okay, I know I said I wouldn't go aggro. I had one more thing I want to talk
No,
about. I totally
please. I
forgot.
prefer aggro. It's more fun.
This was 2 years ago. The two things I remembered because I watched your Vosh debate yesterday at the gym, and the two things that I wanted to contend with. Well, the first was you believed that at this time, Jordan Peterson being adopted in the Daily Wire was going to kind of pull these guys left
Work out?
on the theory of evolution. And
Yeah,
do you
I
still think
I
he's
said
done
he would
that?
have a secularizing effect. Well, on that in particular, there's no way to fucking know it. I think it's been a net negative though overall. Let's say
That Jordan
Although, I don't
Peterson's
know,
part
hold
of the
on.
Daily Wire, or that
that he. Yeah. Well, I don't know. It's hard to say because reality has a way of playing itself out. Um, I hate the fact that Jordan Peterson acts like a moral coward and doesn't criticize Netanyahu for being the Nazi that I think he is. And so that's bad. But I think a lot of people, I think a lot of people share my opinion, which might be a good thing in the long term, but I don't know.
that he's which one
That him going to the Daily Wire
will be good for pulling
proves
them
that
less radically, or
no. It proves that even people who I would regard as of good moral character are willing to compromise their morals for
do you think he's compromising
personal
his
gain.
morals that much?
I think there's a part of him that eats at him. I do really believe that. I think he knows that the extreme religious terrorism in Israel, that like the far right people
Mm-hmm.
are satanic Nazis. And he knows that and he doesn't ever bring it up. And I think that's eating at him.
Well,
Now,
I don't think it makes
we'll
a
have to
huge
see.
difference. Unfortunately, he seems pretty fully on board with the whole Daily Wire thing.
Well, we'll see. Let me ask you a question. If this is hypothetical,
Mhm.
probably will not happen. If let's say 3 months from now he says I'm parting from the Daily, because they've already killed
Candace, Brett,
they took out Candace and Brett.
and they burned the bridge
And-
with Crowder before it even happened, right?
Yep, and they did all kinds of weird legal mumbo jumbo with NDAs and all that shit. And Peterson's a free speech guy. That's kind of odd, don't you think?
That Peterson's a
we
free
need-
speech guy. Well, I don't think these people are free speech
No,
absolutists.
for him-
I think they're full of shit when they say stuff like that.
I agree. Clearly they are. Their actions have proven that. But free speech. But I do believe 100% that Jordan Peterson believes in his soul. That's. I mean,
Sure.
I've watched
Whatever,
enough Jordan
yeah.
Peterson to say that's the one thing he for sure
But
believes.
real
which is
quick, give me
free
your
speech is
best
the most
Peterson
important thing.
impression.
I've never been able to do a good one.
It's just like Kermit.
I can do
like,
when I'm
the relationship between the chaotic woman and God is that something like
What's
that,
up,
right?
guys? I can't do it. What's up, guys? I can't do it. I can get his cadence sometimes, but I have to be kind of in flow. But no, I can't do a good one at all.
The dialectical between Stacy and Stacy's
me ask
mom
you.
is that
So let me
Stacy
ask you.
is not as attractive.
Okay, hold on. Let me paint a picture here. If it was the case that Jordan Peterson left the Daily Wire, whether or not it's 3 months, 4 months, fine, 5 months
5
doesn't matter.
years,
That's my
whatever.
impression. And he did leave, and he cited, and then let's say he left 5 months from now, and then a year later he talks about because they were basically compromising his morals. He's like, I
Yeah.
thought they were my friends.
I would have.
I think long term that
more
would be a net
respect for
positive.
him. I
I
what?
would too.
I don't think he would be a net positive, but I think that would be a good thing because in the same way that Brett Cooper left and is still promoting all the things I hate, it is at least good that
Well, I don't know.
right is
I,
infighting.
you know what I think? Part of the reason I made that, I'll tell you the honest reason I made that Brett Cooper video. It was all a ploy
to get her to date
because
you.
I just hate Israel so much.
Oh.
She's friends with Candace Owens.
Mm-hmm. But
And
still?
obviously the Daily Wire. Oh, yeah.
God. Okay.
Totally. And I'm like, you know what I think happened? Brett agrees. Well, not on the crazy shit that Candace says. And to be clear, Candace says some crazy shit. You saw Candace Champion Spotlight?
Yes, I did. Like I
Yeah.
said, those are good videos.
My favorite one, which by the way, part of the reason I don't do them anymore is because like, oh, dude, of all the ones that were if all the ones that were gonna get 100,000 views, that was the one to get 100,000 views.
When are
We
you going to
put a
make
lot
one
of
on
time
me
into
about the enraged berserker who just flails and tries to attack everyone and
No,
he
no,
has
no,
friendly
no.
fire on or whatever,
that.
right?
No. We have the thing about centrists is we have great sympathy and understanding. Look, when my mom and dad got in fights and they screamed at me, I didn't take it personally. And so when we fight, I don't take it personally, Niels.
Someone in my chat
But
said the stupidest thing. Go on. Sorry, it's not about you. Go on. Sorry.
but Brett Cooper, I think, is still friends with she for sure. It's not disputed at all. Like they're like go girl in the comments to each other.
Mm-hmm.
But you know,
Because they're on the same team of anti-Daily Wire.
True, and I think Brett is more on Candace's side in regards to how evil they think Netanyahu is, and the Daily Wire is very explicitly pro Netanyahu.
Yes, Ben Shapiro is
And I
never
think
going to
that's
deviate
what-
from that in any
correct.
way. But you think that's
Correct.
why Brett Cooper left?
That's my suspicion. I don't know. I hope it's why.
Okay. All right. Well,
But
the
I do
second
think
thing
that's
from that
probably-
video
yeah.
is that you compared putting your child in conversion therapy to a trans child getting some sort
Their
of
breast
trans,
surgically removed.
yeah, mastectomy or whatever, puberty blockers, whatever. I don't think those things are equivalent. One is forcing a kid against their will to do something. One is having consent with the
okay,
parent
so
and the
this
doctor
is-
to do something. And
So
I'm
there's
not
actually
vehemently pro trans surgery. I don't even know like the degree to which this is a good or a bad thing. I think most people I've heard from say it's good, but I would need to look into this. But I think that comparison is
Okay.
pretty frivolous considering the consent
Okay,
dynamics.
so
there.
there's two different conversations we could have. One is the pure empirical question,
Mhm.
which is I spent before I got into Israel, before I started talking about Zog all the time, I was talking about the trans kids issue because I
Mhm.
thought, well, this is the ultimate radical centrist issue here, because I'm in favor of trans adults, and I think the biggest barrier to acceptance of trans adults is the fact that people think, well, I'm okay with an adult doing whatever they want with their body.
Mhm.
Oh, but geez, I also have to support like a 13-year-old taking puberty blockers or getting surgery even. If I'm against that, that makes me a bigot. Well, then I guess I'll be a bigot. I think that's what prevents trans adults from getting acceptance. So I was like, okay,
Because
let me
that's
very
the
clearly-
wedge issue sort of thing. Like
correct. That was like
that's
the front line of the culture war.
I think if anything, the wedge
the-
issue would be the sports thing because I think that's where the most common sense people are like,
Well,
well,
fine,
obviously there's a
same-
divorce
same
thing. But I
orbit,
understand
but
what
I
you're
think
saying.
that-
Okay.
Yeah, or prisons or whatever, fine. But it was the clearest thing. There's an empirical thing, which is there is not a single study that it currently exists or has ever existed that shows the long-term efficacy of puberty blockers even on children, let alone double mastectomies.
Could it possibly exist? Right? Like we haven't been doing it long enough.
So
Right?
here's the argument. Well, should we allow clinical experiments, clinical trials, if the parents want to get their kid a double mastectomy,
And the kid wants it, and the doctor
and the
says
kid is enrolled in a
yes,
clinical
and the
trial that
psychologists
lasts,
say, yeah, you
Yep,
meet
and that
this
yep,
criteria.
and here's the kicker. That trial lasts at least 25 years. Then, after that time has elapsed, and if the evidence suggests it's good,
But that's not
then
how
it could work.
science is conducted. You can't say, well, we don't know for sure until 25 years. Like, obviously, you're going to look at the short-term outcomes and the positive or negative effects of that has.
Correct,
And
that's
if a bunch
why-
of people are
Yeah,
happy
that's why
with
for
it now.
yeah, that's why.
Like,
there were
don't get me wrong.
laws.
If it turned out that 90% of these people were super upset about it 10 years from now, then I would say, okay, it looks like this didn't work. And this
Yeah,
is a
right.
bad
I don't think
idea, right?
anyone should be able to do it outside of a clinical trial until these trials have run for at least 25 years.
Even if most medical doctors and psychologists are like, yeah, this seems to be completely positive on their
Because
lifestyle.
that's exactly what they said about smoking cigarettes.
I'm pretty sure we knew that smoking cigarettes was
Nope.
incredibly harmful as far
Well,
back as
I'm
like
sure we did too, but I can show you the studies from PubMed that you can still find that are in exactly the same format as the current studies that
but
say
is this
extensive research has proven that smoking does not appreciably shorten life.
let's say that there was an HIV drug. Let's say PrEP is relatively new.
Well, hold on. Wait, hold on.
No, I don't disagree
the
with.
point
I
I'm
don't
making.
disagree with. Yes, there are obviously. I've used this exact example before in a video where it's like,
Right.
why are you going to throw out any and all scientific, not any and all, but the idea of like short-term scientific studies because, well, we got it wrong with cigarettes. This is kind of the conspiracy brain thing where it's like, okay,
Yeah, so,
well,
so this
so
yeah, yeah.
if
so
I
this is-
if PrEP, no, hold on, let me get away from the trans thing
go
for a
ahead,
second.
go ahead.
PrEP is relatively new, right? All right. We don't have 25-year studies on PrEP. We don't know that it won't cause insane bad things. In the same way, we don't know mRNA stuff isn't going to do stuff. Fuck. I don't know if that's a fucking TOS thing. You know what I mean? Like,
It's over. Yeah.
yeah, it's Jover for me, dude. I'm not demonetized. Look, these things are clearly not long-term studies. It's impossible. They've just been invented. So we should only do clinical things that last. We only do clinical things until there's a 25-year outcome. Like, that's kind of insane. That's like
Nope.
not how.
No.
Okay, but
Like
why?
cutting
but why?
off the breast of a 13-year-old?
Well, you can just
better
say
be
it
damn
like
sure.
that, but what?
Yeah, so this is the thing. This is what I talk about with intuition and stuff. I don't. How do I say this? And this is, let's see. I don't know how I can convince someone that cutting off the breasts of a 13-year-old girl who believes that she is the opposite sex or should be the opposite sex, when there is not a single study in the history of the world that has proven the efficacy of this.
Well, hold on. What do you mean by proving the efficacy? Because if you're saying a 25-year study, I don't think those exist. If you're saying incredibly positive outcomes, reduces suicidality, like
over what period of time?
Whatever like how long they've been conducting these studies. So not 25 years, but like.
So now this. Okay, so, and I don't talk about this issue anymore because I'm like
You probably debated this into the ground, I'm sure. If you were talking about it 2 years ago.
Yeah. So the empirical question is, are there any studies that prove this efficacy? And I'd say the answer is unequivocally no. The defense
but what's your criteria for efficacy?
Long-term study.
Right. So it's until it's 25.
Child, a decision, like for example, puberty blockers that we know reduces damages fertility, if not outright destroys it.
Yeah.
Okay, a 13-year-old. The idea that we think can common sense.
Please don't. It's my trigger word.
Yeah. See, this is the fundamental difference between you and I. Is like I have zero problem in the history of the fucking world saying 13-year-olds are not in a position to make a medical decision that will permanently inhibit their ability to have children when they are 18, 20, 30 years
by
old.
themselves. But
That's
if they have
parental
consent and several psychological gates that are like, hey, we have to talk about like how much this really is worth diagnosing you. Like what are these criteria?
You know what I think?
Like
I think
it's not just, hey,
yeah.
Billy, get your parents' consent, sign this form. All right, cut off your whatever.
Many children have been harmed by decisions that their parents made that the parents genuinely believed was in the best interest of the child.
I'm sure that's happened. And if there were...
And I think that is what's happening here.
Well, here's the thing. If a long-term study comes out and it turns out it's totally cool and everyone's super still happy with it, would you not say that based on no evidence that there's this giant negative problem right now, you've now prevented a bunch of people who wanted to do this from doing this of their own volition because of vibes of common sense?
Yeah. So here's what I'll say. If we have a 25-year study that says that cutting off the breasts of 13-year-old girls produces positive outcome, and it's a rigorous study, and conservative doctors would even have to admit it's a rigorous study from the methodology. Then yeah, of course, sure. I don't believe that that's how reality is set up.
No. I'm saying if that came out... No, hold on. Before you do, my question was, if that study came out, hypothetical world, where it's like, okay, it's undeniably positive, everyone agrees. It's like, wow, okay, I guess everyone was just happy with this. Do you not think that because there's in lieu of the evidence that this is some hugely negative thing, other than your common sense, that we were not doing it for your vibe reason? Preventing thousands of people from getting what the surgery.
So it is the case. For example, it is the case that there are 13-year-old children who, if you did cut off their breasts, would be fine because they'd end up being transgender adults, and so they just got ahead of it. So so there is a proportion of people that will be fine. The question is, how many people will you harm in the process? So at a certain point, if the ratio is 10, I don't know what's the acceptable ratio. It's like, I don't know, if you had a drug that 50% of the people who took it became permanently ill, I don't know, what is the standard for medicine now?
I don't know what the percentage is. I'm sure that
there's
I know in flight safety, it's like times 10 to the 9, like a giga worth of accidents per flight. So I don't know what it would be for medical.
Yeah. So for extreme complex, I don't know, treatments, let's say 80, 90, like 90% of the people that undergo this, if 10%, I don't know, if 10% of the people who get a treatment die or become suicidal or whatever, I don't know. But hold on.
Because if a bunch of them, if way more than 90% of them become less suicidal, that's good, right? And we know that's true.
Yeah, but we for fucking sure don't know that's true whatsoever.
Wait, there are extensive studies about reducing the suicidality. Not in the long run, maybe not in 25 years, but at least in the short term.
No. Yeah. So okay, and this is why I stopped. when you make a claim like that, the only way now to get past this is for us to literally you send me the
Pull up
study ahead of time.
the studies,
I send
yeah.
it to you ahead of time.
Well,
We both
to
research
be
it for
fair,
2
you
hours,
talked
and then
about this
come
with
back to it.
Vosh 2 years ago. You still haven't looked at that study, or? I know you haven't
I've
looked at it
looked
recently.
on my own accord. I've spent going back to the issue of I probably spend too much fucking time on issues I have no control over. Yes, I've looked through the fucking study, the Cornell meta-analysis, and pulled through, what is it, 10, 15 of them, and gone to Sci-Hub and pulled them out. They're all fucking trash. They all of the issues that people would lay at the feet of the Lisa Littman study are present in those. The point is,
Well,
hold
to
on.
be clear for my audience, the Lisa
let me
Littman one
help
was
you.
interviewing parents of transphobic moms, and
Yeah,
the other
selection
ones
bias.
were
Okay, no, that's
versus
not what
the.
it was. No, it's not what it was. The way you're framing it now. This is my point. I don't even want to discuss it because it's
Okay.
just like that's not how it's.
All right, we can
The
move
same, but to be clear, that same selection bias was there. It was pro-trans kids organizations where they pulled those other studies from, like the Cornell meta-analysis.
But it was asking the people who actually did the surgery whether or not they were happy.
Yes, less than 2 years after the surgery.
Sure, but it's the difference being you're equating
Yeah, so
people
this is
who had the surgery
this
done to
is the
them
fundamental
and the
disagreement. Okay, so this is the fundamental
moms of
disagreement. This
people
is
who
the
disagree with
fundamental
the surgery.
Do you believe that there is such a thing as common sense?
No. I think there is a normal set of things that you could probably find in like an average set of the population where it's like, yeah, most people think you shouldn't kill each
Let's
other.
this question. How about this? Let's do
But
this.
no, I don't think there's common sense.
Let me ask you a question. If it was the case that we had studies that proved that, because here's the issue that you're pointing out. It's like, look, for every 100 kids that have gender dysphoria, X number of them would actually benefit from getting the surgery, right?
Mm-hmm. Which,
Even though the
to
other-
my understanding, and this could be wrong, is very high. Like
It's 1,000. You're
over
wrong.
90.
There's not no shred of evidence whatsoever. So that's my
Mhm.
point, and
Okay.
we can have this whatever.
Okay.
But it's X. Now, in your mind and the mind of the audience, X is either 1 or 99 or whatever. Okay,
Mhm.
it's X. There's X number of people who have gender dysphoria and would benefit, and then there's Y. And Y are the people who it happens to them and
it's
they end up not
negative,
benefiting.
right?
Okay.
They're like, oh, I detransitioned. This is horrible. It increased my suicidality. This is what Y is. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. If there was research that gay conversion therapy worked and we could correctly identify that population of X, would you be okay with gay conversion therapy?
No, I would say that it's effective, but I think the difference being that unless you could demonstrably say that being gay was more harmful, in the way that you could make the argument that, like, hey, if you do want to get this surgery, you might be infertile. You are making permanent alterations to your body.
Yep.
This has to be something you have to be very, very sure of if you're going to get it.
Let's say the studies prove that gay conversion therapy produced the positive outcomes that we're talking about with like double mastectomies for children.
It's like if you did gay conversion therapy, 95% of the people you did reduce their suicidality.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems like a good thing.
Okay. There's a
If
world
that was
where
the case, by the way, it's not.
yeah, this is hypothetical, and,
Yes.
and it's not, by the way.
I'm
That's
just,
why I say
you know,
gay
if
conversion
someone
therapy is
clips
as
this
bad
and
as
it's
that.
like, oh, soy pill supports gay conversion therapy, you know, I don't
I'm
know.
not gonna go far in life if
Of course, now I got a super chat. I'm
worried
sure
about the
it's
clipping
relevant
thing.
to that. But go on, sorry.
um
So if that was the case, and I would say, yeah, if you reduce the suicidality
Okay.
of 95% of these children by doing this, this seems like it's probably a good
Okay,
thing
now,
based on the way you've laid
okay.
that out.
I would say, well, wait a second. Why are these kids suicidal in the first place? Because they've been convinced by their Christian parents that if they're gay, they go to hell. So maybe we should address that.
Sure. It's like,
So with
what
the
is the
trans kids
suicidal
thing,
coming
it's
from?
like, why are 13-year-old girls suicidal?
Well, have you
because they
asked
think
like
they're
someone who's trans, like this question?
I've talked to several transgender people on my channel.
And usually the ones that I talk to at least say it's because I feel like I'm in the wrong body. Every time I look at myself, I feel disdain and I want to be in the right body. And
Yeah, that's called body dysmorphia. Why do
Yeah.
we not? That's what anorexics say.
sure. And if the studies showed that we could talk people out of it or give these people medications that would convert them to be not trans anymore, and this is the best outcome for them, I might support that in the same way I would support an anorexic person to be given some sort of appetite invigorator. What's the opposite of suppressant? You know,
No.
like-
Would you support Would you if an anorexic girl said, "If I don't take Ozempic, I'm
Mhm.
going to kill myself"?
Mhm. Would I support her taking?
Would you
Ozempic?
deny? Would you deny her taking?
This is
if
a
it-
super
if it was-
hypothetical, but if
Yeah, of course.
there was a bunch of studies that showed that the best way to get anorexic people to stop being
No,
suicidal,
not the best way.
No,
We don't, well, okay,
to
fine.
my
The best,
understanding, right? Because this is what you
yeah,
do too. You defer to the people that know better than you, and I don't fucking know, right? Like I can't get.
yeah.
I'm not trans. I can't get inside the mind of a trans person. I don't know what the best thing to do is. I'm not a doctor who's done this a bunch. I don't know what their best thing is. My understanding is that the
Yeah.
best way to do it is the surgery or the gender affirmation, right? So if it turned out like common sense would tell me, yeah, that seems fucking insane
Right.
to give Ozempic to someone who is starving themselves because they need more food.
But if we had studies
But
that
if the
over
study
years were
showed
like, damn,
the
it reduced
health
their
and
suicidality.
mental outcomes were better afterwards, then I would say, well, I guess I'm wrong.
And you would then be okay giving Ozempic to anorexics.
If the study showed that it improved their outcomes,
Okay, fair enough.
afterwards, yes.
So fair enough. Now here's the final question. If it was a case that we had studies that prove that we can give certain this is I'll say this several times. This is a
Yeah.
hypothetical extreme designed to illustrate the
In a
moral
video
principle.
game, in a book, in a fictional
Yeah.
universe, yes.
If we could empirically prove that we could properly identify which children were old enough to consent to have sex with adults, and the studies proved we could do it with 100% accuracy.
So there is like the reason
We're in a
this
fictional world
hypothetical is hard.
that has
No,
no
the reason the
bearing on
hypothetical
reality.
is hard is because I'm like, okay, like obviously we don't even agree what consent is in this current world, right? That's why every country has a different age.
Well, let me ask you a question.
So
Adults not having sex with kids, I would call that common sense. Like the fact that that's bad. Do you
why is it
disagree?
common sense?
That's why it's called common sense. I can't explain it. I
You
just
can,
assume it's
I can
common.
explain it. I can say that there's on average, there's going to be a huge power and understanding dynamic between an adult and a child doesn't understand
Okay.
the implications of having sex, and that's why a
This is,
child
by the way,
shouldn't
this is
have
the
sex,
best way
right?
to end the conversation. By
Yeah,
the way.
about pedophilia.
Which,
But look,
yeah.
but it's like I acknowledge that on the fringes, there's 100% probably a 17-year-old and 364
13
days.
do you
Well, hold
agree
on,
that
let me
there-
finish. Let me finish.
Okay.
Like, there is a 17-year-old and 364-day person who probably has the capacity to consent to sex, and there are, like, especially mentally disabled people, 40-year-olds who don't have the capacity to consent to
Yeah,
sex.
correct.
So this is a on average thing that we apply to society because they're like,
Exactly.
look, we probably shouldn't be letting this
Correct.
happen. But that's not
Right.
common sense. Although you can say that it's common sense to think that, if you can't explain that,
No,
then you
no,
don't
no, no.
actually have
The-
any knowledge.
Why is what you said, the power dynamic? Why is that common sense? Why is that wrong? Why is there? Who cares if there's a different power dynamic?
Because if you're exploiting someone, let's say someone doesn't understand, I can get pregnant. I don't understand the implications of having to raise a child. I don't understand the implications of STIs. I don't understand the implications of what sort of chemicals could be released when I have sex that might make me more attached to this person. That I don't know any of this. I don't have any sex education. Let's say they didn't even have sex education and they're 18. Like,
Yeah.
that is taking advantage of them in a way that I don't think is right.
Yeah,
and I
why
think
is
most
that?
of society might not.
Why? Okay. Why is taking advantage of someone wrong?
Well, are we just going to break this down to like what is the objective
I'm waiting until
morality,
you
or-
admit that. I'm waiting until you realize what you said about there's no such thing as common sense is utterly foolish. Because at a certain
So-
point, it's called common sense.
Okay.
Why is exploiting someone wrong?
Is
I don't know.
common
Why the
sense
fuck
like
are you
people
asking
don't
that
want
question?
bad things to happen to them? Because
That would be common sense.
Okay, then there's common sense.
Yeah.
Then I agree. There's common sense.
Yeah, and cutting off the breast of a 13-year-old. So here's what I would say.
But the 13-year-old doesn't think it's bad. The 13-year-old's like, I
Well,
want
what
this
if
to
the-
happen.
So okay, I'll tell you this. I know adults right now who,
Mhm.
when they were 13, had
Mhm.
sex with adults, and they're glad they did it, and they think it was an important way to
Yeah,
explore their
Milo
sexuality.
Yiannopoulos or whatever just said stuff.
Yeah,
like
but I'm
that,
not.
right?
I'm not. Milo's a fucking meme and a joke. I'm talking about real
Okay.
people in my life who are glad they did it and are better off for it because it allowed them to explore their sexuality.
Okay.
And they might have. Now, this part is not true about the people I know, but I could certainly envision a scenario where it's like, well, I probably would have killed myself if I didn't have if
Yeah,
if,
like some like
yeah. Guess
look,
what?
If we're jumping to the major hypothetical world, like I see where you're going with this. And it's like, look, I'm not going to say that, well, because those people had positive outcomes, we should get rid of the law of age of consent. But if we showed all these studies that it's like, hey, there's better outcomes if children are exposed to sex education at 5th grade. I'm sure there could be a study. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't
so
think
this
this
is
is
the
going to
thing.
happen, but like,
This is
let's say it
yeah,
happened.
This is the fundamental point. Is like there's certain things that I just commit to ideologically, and there's no
Why,
because
though?
I don't believe
Like
because I don't believe in because science because what you,
No, you do though. You've said this in one of your articles. You were like, "Look, I don't know how my phone works. I don't know how my car works. I have to defer to that." But you don't have common sense of my car works. You have common sense that my car will work because the people told me it would, and it does every time I use it. But
well, okay, let me give you an example of something that I believe that maybe you don't even believe.
Okay.
I believe that karma is objectively real.
Okay.
That when you do bad things, you will pay for it at some point. And I believe that almost to the depth of my soul. And I've never seen a study in the world, and arguably all the rational reasons.
I think that's irrational, but do you think that's common sense? I mean, I can't say you don't believe it and like you're being delusional.
I wouldn't say it's common sense.
If that's what you've experienced,
it's intuition.
Sure. Okay.
It is certainly what I've experienced.
Yeah, well, I would reject that. Just you could see any amount of evil people that never get their comeuppance. Like, and what do you think about those people?
How do you know?
How do I know they never get their comeuppance?
Yeah. How do you know what was going on in their mind?
Who cares what went on in their mind? It matters what their actions were, right? Like if they did a bunch of evil things.
The means by which we determine whether or not they got their comeuppance is in their own experience of consciousness, which we will never have access to.
Well, okay, wait. So you think because the morality in their mind was good, then the karma is completely determined by what you think is good and bad?
No, I think karma is determined by what reality judges as to be good.
Okay, if a Nazi who escaped Argentina never got punished for committing the Holocaust,
yeah,
is that a failure of the karmic system, or because they thought they were doing the right thing?
I don't know. What if every night for the rest of his life he had schizophrenic nightmares?
What if he didn't?
That's what
But you believe he did.
Well, obviously no. I don't believe every single Nazi that did it, but I believe that.
So why do you believe in karma then? Because clearly someone got away with it and never felt bad about it.
Well, hold on. The schizophrenic nightmare thing is a hypothetical.
Well, sure.
Possible
but like,
way that it came out.
So
what if he lives in fear? I don't know. What's a worse punishment? Getting executed by firing squad or living 40 years in fear of being killed by Mossad?
If you think that's what happened to him, or maybe he just fucking had a great fucking life the rest of his life. I mean, we don't have to. Wait, we don't have to be hypothetical about this. There are Nazis that we've caught in Germany today that are like 80, 90, 100 years old that lived 50 years without any sort of comeuppance, and just now they're going to go to jail for a couple of years before they die.
Yeah, you don't know what goes on in people's minds.
But you're claiming you 100% know, because if they didn't think what you're thinking,
what did I just say?
No, hold on.
I don't know.
You don't know, but
it's a faith claim.
Right, you faithfully believe in karma, and therefore they must have experienced some sort of equivalent negativity to committing the Holocaust in their brain over the course of their lives. And if not, then your system is
no. This life or the next.
Okay.
Do you think I'm insane for believing that?
People believe insane stuff. I don't think you're.
Do you think the idea that after death, reality in the way that not in the way we experience it certainly, but do you believe that there is? Do you believe it's reasonable to suspect that after you die,
something is there
still happens?
Reasonable? I mean, we have no reason to believe one way or the other. There's impossible to tell. So
this is the ultimate.
It's rational. I think a lot of people rationally believe it, because
what I need
otherwise,
to do is I need to just make this point earlier, because really what we're just talking about is the problem of, I think it's empiricism, where it's like you technically have no way to prove that I'm conscious, right?
Well, everyone's a robot. I'm the main character. Yeah, you're
correct.
Right.
But that's the meme that my point about, like, at a certain point you have to make assumptions that are unfalse. Or you can't verify.
But I can assume you're conscious because you act like me, and I know I'm conscious, or to some extent. I don't have any reason to believe
AI
in
is?
Afterlife. I think a sufficiently complicated AI is conscious. I could be an AI. I don't know. I might have been born yesterday, and all my memories came in.
Hold on. From my point of view, you could be an AI. I could not be, because I am experiencing.
Why not? Have you seen inside your brain?
No. Well, it depends what you mean by AI. You mean like I'm not conscious?
No,
Does AI mean not conscious?
No, AI means you're like a synthetic
I know for
being.
a fact that I'm conscious.
Okay.
You
think therefore you am.
I can't prove it otherwise. Yeah, because I suffer, and I can't just rationalize or think it away. And suffering is a precondition for consciousness. So whether or not you experience suffering, I technically can't ever prove, because you could be. I can't get inside your brain.
Oh, I suffered. I've been suffering a lot recently, actually. But
I believe that. But my point is technically that's unprovable. Yeah.
But you believe it. But I don't think that your belief in my suffering is equivalent to the belief in a karmic.
Okay, so there's a spectrum now. So we agree that
This is such a good way to wrap this up, because yes, there's a spectrum of politics, there's a spectrum of belief, and I think that you are equating things that are like on the crazy ends of that spectrum with things that are very much in a reasonable and understandable part of that spectrum.
I'm aware. I have existential doubt. I doubt it. I doubt that. Like,
there's an afterlife or whatever.
Yeah, of course. Well, I have no fucking way of knowing, and I kind of don't think. I'm not afraid of death.
There is one way to
well,
know,
I'm afraid of dying.
which I won't tell you how to do it.
Yeah. Well. Yeah.
Can I read some super chats? Because some of these are addressed to you.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. Zetsui 655. Oh, Zetsui, $10. How would you being Paul, how would you create a standard for the government intervening in opposition to the parent and doctor view on the child's health? Common sense is not going to cut it. We need an applicable standard. So one more time, because I was kind of weirdly worded.
Yeah.
How would you create a standard for the government intervening in opposition to the parent and doctor in regards to trans kids? Like, what's the legal standard? If you
a reasonable person standard. You ever heard of it? It's called common sense.
So it's funny you say that because it sounds silly, but there is a reasonable
that
person.
entirely
in
unironically,
legal parlance, there is. Hey, a reasonable person would agree that this is
like the foundation of our legal system, by the way.
But
it's not like
when you have this thing that's so dynamically polarized between half the country, how can you then apply the reasonable person? Because this is a conservative viewpoint. Reasonable standard is that we should just never do this, right? And it's like, okay, well, a bunch of people don't believe
the average. Which, by the way, this is the case. The polling on this is crystal clear. The average person thinks it's
okay, but what if the reasonable standard is that slavery is cool? Like, is that now what we should defer to as?
Well, then we have a bigger problem. Well, then we have a bigger problem than what's being asked here.
Well, for the trans thing, but
the government standard.
Well, the government standard is what's reasonable.
It's like, well, if okay, here's the thing. If most of your population thinks it's reasonable to own slaves, then I promise you, there's no solution. There's no government solution other than war or.
Well, yeah, that's how we got rid of it. Actually, considering
well,
how many people believed it was okay.
Yeah. Well.
Okay, I think the standard should be between a bunch of medical doctors and the parent and the child if they're all consenting, and I don't think it's the same as conversion therapy because there's clearly
because you have not seen the evidence.
Well.
You have not looked at the studies yourself.
No,
right?
I have. I just haven't looked at them for this conversation.
Okay.
But if the studies came out and said, hey, conversion therapy helps 99% of people and it's actually really positive, then I would support that if that was the case. And my understanding is that was the case
maybe. I don't know.
Because I did read those studies when you had the debate and Foch has talked about it like a million billion fucking times.
Yeah.
Okay, Moments Captured, $5 says, it used to be common sense for girls to be married off at 13 and have kids before they were 18. Common sense is not real. Well, I would disagree with this one. I think you would too, right? Because at the time, that was common sense. But this is why I don't like the idea of common sense, because it's just whatever your average person kind of feels in their gut, which I would never really want to defer to.
Well, let's get rid of the reasonable person standard in law.
I think the reasonable person standard is because
why
it's
do you
very
support
hard.
The existence of the reasonable person standard?
Because I was about to say
because
it's very difficult to break down in language exactly what one means without finding a bunch of exceptions. So while there is a legal sense of common sense, I still don't think that you can now appeal to that for most things, especially because you don't appeal to the reasonable person standard for a lot of stuff in law, right? Like there are explicit things like this is breaking the law and this is not. Like I think that
hold on. Every instance of breaking the law is technically tested against a reasonable person standard. Because the first thing you have to say is, well, it depends on what happened. It's like, well, what happened here? What would a reasonable person have done in this scenario that was not trying to murder the person, so on and so forth? So literally the entire there's a good image of like all these rocks stacked on top of each other, and then in the bottom right corner there's like a little rock that the whole thing is standing on.
Okay, wait, hold on. Wait. Let's talk about this then. Actually, I think I have a better way of synthesizing this question. You say, I am anti-trans mastectomies because common sense tells me that's not okay. Now, if I poll people,
it's a combination of the evidence.
Sure. Okay, let's say the evidence did exist, but common sense was still against that. What if most people still thought it was a good idea, and you were the outlier there? Would that change your mind, or is the common sense your gut feeling, or the majority's
I would focus
on
a different issue at that point.
Wait, what do you mean?
I would say, well, I live in a society that's so fucked that I'm gonna have to start joining.
My point is,
resistance.
Is common sense your gut, or is it the most people's gut? Because I think that when you say that's my common sense, it's because I think most people believe it.
Well, I think common sense is probably not the best term.
Okay, I agree with that.
That's my point. It's like defining the word experience. Can you define the word experience? No. Can you define time? Define the word time. Define the word time.
It depends on the context, right? A segment or a moment that extends beyond a certain set of moments based on how we've defined that moment to be.
Okay, define the color blue.
Well, that is completely. What's
Yeah,
it
right.
called?
Okay, certain words, it's like, dude, defining them defeats the purpose. Common sense is that common sense is all of those things that you and I don't need to say explicitly but take for granted. Now, if we have different stuff there, then it's like, okay, this is
But blue is different to different people.
no. Let me answer your question directly. True, yeah, there's colorblindness. Yeah, but hold on. This is why I said that we have different intuitions. It's like it is the case that you and I could just simply have different intuitions. And like, well, what's common sense then? It's like, well, the common sense to an extrovert, what's common sense to an extrovert is very different from a common sense to an introvert. Like, what do you want to do with your Saturday night? Oh, it's common
Here's why I
sense. We'll go
take
to the
issue
bar.
with
It's
it.
like,
Is because
no, it's common sense. We fucking
let's
play
say
Settlers of Catan.
well, let's agree with you and say that common sense is at least this encompassing idea of a lot of things we take for granted in society that almost no one debates on. That's common sense. Let's call it that. The reason I take issue with that is if a scientific study comes and then goes against that common sense, why would I go to my gut feeling if I'll be hesitant, I'll question the methodology, I'll read into it, but if it then says like, hey, I'm wrong, and this gut feeling, would you argue that there are things that would seem intuitive that are not true?
Of course.
So
Of course.
why ever rely
That's
on
why
it
science
as
is so fucking great.
Well, yeah, but why rely on it as the like backstop of how you determine policy if it's obviously not based on things other than what you feel?
This is my fault. This is my fault talking to Destiny. I condemned myself to the vibes guy.
Yeah, I mean, kind of.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, people can watch my videos and see if I don't believe in facts or logic.
I don't think you don't believe in facts.
I know.
or
I'm
logic,
not saying you do. I'm not saying you do. I'm talking to the fucking Destiny fans.
Well, some of them are in here because I debated them too. So we've got our own problems.
Yeah, I don't.
Look, hey. Apparently, I'm making a lot of money right now because
scientific
people want to ask you
evidence is
questions.
strong?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, like, should we use science? Yeah, but the question is, are there any things? Like, is the ultimate standard of knowledge like a peer-reviewed study?
It's not the
No.
ultimate standard, but I will hold it in much higher regard than my gut feeling because I don't know shit about dick. So, like, why would I
okay.
defer to myself? Right?
I mean,
Like,
because there's certain things like how do you know,
most things
like,
I don't defer to myself.
there's like morality can't be determined by peer-reviewed study.
No,
Like,
but
what
what
we
morality
ought
leads to
what
can
we,
be.
This is the classic Humean thing of what is you can't derive an is from an ought. Excuse me, you can't derive an ought from an
My
is.
mod just had to super chat me because I was ignoring my Discord here. Let's move on to some of these
go
other
ahead.
questions. I'm sorry. All right, Ace X222,
And then-
thank you for the super chat. I haven't been thanking you
wanna
guys.
wrap up
Thank you
here?
so much. Yeah, no, we can wrap up. I'm sorry, but I'll try to go fast. Oh, well, this is kind of mean. It's poking. Do you mind if I read a mean one? I know you had a whole
Given
video.
how wonderfully and completely absent aggression this conversation has been, I think it'd be uncharacteristic if you did, but I'll make an exception.
Here we go. All right. This guy is not intelligent, doesn't have the capacity to actually analyze his beliefs. This conversation is pointless, but I will defend you here. He used the S in analyze, so he's British. He also gave me pounds, so we can just kind of disregard everything he says. So
He said that sounded like it was an attack on you.
that's true. He didn't actually use a proper noun there. So
No. He clearly was referring to me as not. He said this conversation was pointless. He basically said you're the kind of person that wastes your own time.
That's true. That is an attack on me. Why am I talking to you? God damn it. All right. Moments
Well, you can
Captured
answer
has super chatted $5. The willingness to move the goalpost when common sense doesn't agree with his position means he cares more about his gut than the science on this. What do you think about that? I don't know if I even agree with that, but I see what he's saying.
Can't derive an ought from an is. Look it up. I mean, that's what we're arguing here. That's really what this is. This is literally a philosophy. The point that I'm making is you can't derive an ought from an is fundamentally, but like there's a reason this discussion has
this
been
is
happening for
interesting.
thousands of years.
Well,
Although that particular phraseology was Hume, which is only in the last couple hundred.
I got into this kind of back and forth with Michael Knowles in a conversation that he'll never air, I guess, because he didn't
Michael
like it.
Knowles.
Yeah. I
In
went to
what
one
context?
I went to one of his things at Berkeley. I did a Q&A. They liked my back and
nice.
forth, and they invited me for his after show. I can't find it anywhere. I don't even know if they ever posted it.
Fucking coward. Okay.
It might be
Him,
somewhere.
not you.
Yeah. No, I think he's a terrible person. Anyway.
I could probably agree with that.
Cool. Hey, I want to end it right there, but I do want to.
I'm generally not in the business of just like even if like even someone who hates like women and says like they should all get back in the fucking kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
Like yeah, I'll say like obviously if I'm talking to like a friend about he hates women. And I literally was just watching the Destiny versus Andrew Wilson conversation. I streamed it and I was like, Andrew probably fucking hates. No, I didn't say it. I implied because he fucking probably does. But even like, saying, like
to the degree that we would consider hating women. But hey, he loves his wife. He treats her like a
well,
diamond.
and
right?
I guess
So-
more specifically, I wouldn't even. You're right. I wouldn't. hating some whatever. Like calling someone a misogynist. It's like simply even if I genuinely believe someone fits a description of a misogynist or a racist, almost on principle. It's like the word snowflake. Like even if I genuinely believe that someone is so weak-minded that they perfectly fit the definition of a snowflake that the conservatives use. Like I'm not going to use that term just because it's so fucking dumb.
Because it's too loaded, or
yeah, it turns people's brains off.
Well,
Even if
I
someone
want
is
to take
racist
back
and you
the
call
term
them
racist and Nazi from the people who've been incorrectly applying it to
Yeah,
people it
so
probably
I
doesn't
think
apply
it's well,
for.
yeah, it's
So.
a circumstantial thing. I think it's been abused too much. But anyway, you had a
Yeah, well, me
another
and
super
Michael
chat?
Forth had this Michael Knowles had
Knowles.
this back and forth where we were talking about, like, why do you believe what you believe? Why do you defer to your gut ever? Because it seems like you apply this inconsistent standard where, yeah, I don't know how my car works, so I'm trusting the science on the car, I'm trusting my science on the plane, I'm trusting my science on this, but just because I don't have a gut feeling about that, because that's a great thing I take for granted part of my life, now I'm going to start questioning, well, this thing seems a little weird, so I will just now question this random thing just based on my ideology, and it's completely absent of any empirical backing. It's just, well, that doesn't seem right. So I'm just not even going to consider this as a viable thing. I'm not going to look into it. I'm not going to, I'm going to ideologically deconstruct this study, not because I actually have a problem with methodology, but because of what I already believe.
Do you think Destiny is capable of gaslighting the women he's with?
I think it's evidently true that he did, right? Like, that's just come out.
And do you think that he could craft the most powerful, logical argument possible to get them to not trust their own gut?
Do you think it's possible that in the same way he could do that a scientist could be wrong?
Gaslighting is getting someone to not trust their gut when they should trust their gut. That's sort of what that means, right?
Sure. But I'm
I
not,
believe
just
you
because
can
it's
be gaslit
possible
on a media political scale.
Oh, sure. But is that because it's possible, again, with same thing with the Chinese shooting of the substation, because it's possible, am I going to let that dictate how I form opinions about the things that are coming out of a scientific consensus? Like, no. Like, I'm going to question it.
Okay, well, you would have thought that gay people were a fucking affliction, according to the DSM.
Well, if my gut feeling was, oh, I don't think this is true because I know gay people and this, I'll go and read into that. And then if I were to actually look into the studies and how they were conducted, and you can make arguments about those, that's different, right? That's saying, hey, this is why I don't think this is good science, right? And but that's not.
Hold on, but this is my point. This is my point. All the scientists at the time said it was good science.
Some of them did.
Who are you to evaluate?
Well, right. Who am I to on just a basis of like, well, I just don't trust this versus like,
right. So even though you would have known,
if
like,
other
people,
if this
just
was, hold on, wait.
Wrong, like,
it's not just because people say it, it's all right. Well, in my gut, I know some gay people. They don't seem like they're mentally unwell, but I'm going to look into why this study says what it does. That would be how we now, post hoc, we can see this. These people are not doing good science, and you can look at studies now like that autism scientific study.
Yeah, and my claim is that they're not doing good science now. This is an empirical question, and this is why I'm talking about. We'll go back to the studies.
But no, because you're deferring mostly to, oh, my gut feeling is we shouldn't cut the breast sauce of children. But
I'm
not
comfortable saying that that's my gut feeling. Yes, my gut feeling is generally we shouldn't cut the.
But
hold on, all the ways. Wait, hold on. But all the ways that you said an adult could exploit a child sexually, how does it not apply also for cutting off the breast of a 13-year-old?
Because when an adult exploits a child, it's not the child consenting to psychological doctors who say, hey, this is good, pedophilia is good, a medical doctor saying, yes, this is good, this is going to cause a good thing for the child, and the parent being like, yes, I'm okay with this.
There are clinical
two of those were the standard.
Therapy,
we used to sell off, little kids. Parents used to sell them off for like dowries and shit like that, right? So like, obviously, two of those don't meet my standard. But if it's like the psychological analysis that this is good, it would seem to me that it would be good. And I don't think I would have the gut feeling
that that was therapy before.
Yeah, a few times actually. I don't think I'd have.
Every time I've gone, which is one time, it was very beneficial.
Yeah.
But I'm also aware of how non-scientific it is.
Well, sure, but I think
psychologist's analysis
of whether or not you have gender dysphoria. Okay, we can move on for this.
It's an empirical thing.
All right, someone has been telling me to read these like 16 DMs. We're almost done with this, unless people keep sending me money. This is one that you. Okay. This isn't me accusing you of being racist, but when you talked about...
I am racist. I've already told you this.
Fair enough. When you talked about why someone might hate America, and you referenced a black person who might have qualms with the government, your go-to example was not police injustice,
Correct. Yeah. It was
redlining.
gang violence. Yeah.
No, it was mayors abolishing the police that would have otherwise
Oh, yeah.
enforced laws against the gang that killed the black guy's family
Yes.
member, and
Yeah.
that Democrats have ruined the black community. I think that is not a centrist
Yeah.
position, regardless of whether or not you think that's true.
Well, it's an objective
Obviously, I don't
fact.
think-
So centrism is about the truth. So I should say it's an objective fact. Well, there are no objective facts, arguably, because we live in a simulation potentially. But I believe that's indisputable.
Okay, I'm going to tell her to send it again, but I'm going to read this other one, and then I'll let you go.
Okay.
Let's see. The next super chat was 10.
Hold on, real quick. Do you disagree that abolishing the police was fucking terrible for what happened in Minneapolis and the murder rate skyrocketed the following 2 years?
I don't agree with abolishing police, but to say that.
Okay, why don't you
when
agree with it?
I have a
because
whole...
you know it's fucking stupid as fuck.
Yeah, because I don't agree
And it's
with
black,
abolishing
poor
the
black
police.
people that pay the fucking price for it.
It's anyone that would
And
benefit
it's rich
from the
white
police
progressives
that
who
is...
advocated
Hold
for it,
on.
who are completely insulated from
Hold
those
on.
consequences.
Wait.
See, I can get mad too.
No, I'm saying that I have a whole video talking about why someone might hate America, and my go-to example is not a black person upset at abolishing the police. It would be a black person upset at the years of systemic racism and Jim Crow laws and people that are
I
still
would
alive
consider
today.
that systemic racism. A bunch of rich white fucking progressives insulated from the consequences of their own stupidity, which abolishing the police caused an increase
You know,
in
there's
murder
like a
rate. You're
lot of
laughing,
black
that's
people
true.
that are also for abolish the police,
Oh,
especially
really?
in BLM.
What are the
right?
really? What are the polls?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's majority. You know.
What do you think
if
it is? If I told you if I told you it was 90+% that said it was strongly disagree.
That in the black community, I probably
Yeah.
believe you. That's probably true, especially because
right.
they're the people who like need the police the most.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Who
to call that
recognize how fucking stupid
that-
it is.
I could see that as a systemic racism insofar as this
Really?
hurts black people the most.
Rich white people
Um,
taking advantage of poor black people
When you
for
say
their own fucking
taking
moral
advantage of,
vindication.
do you think these rich white people are doing it because they're like, I want these black people to suffer
I
at the
think they're
hands of
doing it because
criminals?
they're narcissistic freaks who care more about looking virtuous than actually doing something to make a difference for
Okay,
black people.
Wait, I'm gonna steelman the fuck out of people who want to abolish the police, which I don't want to do. So bear with me.
Okay.
I'm some dipshit Weinmann liberal who has lived through the George Floyd protests, and I think that 500,000 black people are shot every day by cops.
Yeah.
I think we should stop this, get rid of the police. Is that,
Yep.
do you think they're exploiting or they wish
Nope, not that
harm on
initial
the-
reaction. But if you become someone who dedicates political activism to getting it done despite all the resistance and all the fucking and you ignore every possible fact in front of your face that says this is fucking stupid, you're doing it for virtue signaling. And you're a narcissistic.
At the very
freak.
least, they're naive and ignorant. I think that's very
At the
different
very
from...
least, I 100% agree.
Sorry,
with that.
excuse me. At the very worst, they're naive and ignorant, it seems like. Versus where we're
Okay, we
talking about
disagree.
like... oh, okay.
No, we disagree.
I think that it's hard to call that systemic racism in comparison to, hey, let's not let black people
Okay.
live here 'cause
Also,
we
I
hate
think
them.
systemic racism is having property taxes fund school instead of redistributing it, so it gets so rich.
There's
just
a
rich
much
white
there's a
people
much
can't live
better
together.
argument for that, I would say. Much better argument. Okay, last one here. Hertz
Sure.
Glass,
Let's-
super
let's,
chatted.
let's do both. As a centrist, I can do both.
10 euros. What is your biggest disagreement with the alt-right apart from racism?
What's your biggest disagreement with people who hate women aside from them hating women?
Well, I think the alt-right's a
what's my-
little
with the
more than
alt-right?
just racist. Yeah.
What would alt? I define alt-right sort of by being like ethnocentric racist. So what in addition, what are the characteristics of the alt-right besides racism?
That's actually a good question. What would be the
They're in
next
favor of
biggest
monarchy.
thing?
I'm not really in favor of monarchy.
Hertz Glass, if you're still in chat, give me some other
I'm in favor of
characteristics
the
because I don't know if
unitary
you would
executive
say.
theory.
Would you say like, oh,
I
yeah,
think they're
it's.
kind of,
Would you say it's
oh,
racist to be theocratic? Would you say it's racist to be wanting a hegemonic society that is not necessarily like based on race, but just based on cultural values? Because I think those could be things that are white nationalist or alt-right that you could theoretically divorce from the racism and still hold a position that's very aligned with what they want. Just, hey, I'm just not adding the white part.
Yeah, I disagree with biblical fundamentalism in all religious fundamentalism. I think, by the way, you conflate, and this is, I'm giving you this advice as a smaller YouTuber. I'm in no position to do this.
Hey, I
but
do
I
that
would
all the
point
time. Don't worry.
out that it is important to know that one of the reasons that Christian nationalists are able to continue to gain inroads, aside from me platforming them, of course, is because they explicitly point out that they're not racist, because Christianity is explicitly non-racist. The whole central message of Christianity is all the different tribes are God's children, and when you accuse a Christian nationalist of being racist, and then they cite all of their Bible verses, then it's like, fuck, now I look dumb, and now these people look more credible than they otherwise should be. There are Christian nationalists that are racist, of course, like maybe Stephen Wolfe.
Probably Stephen Wolfe.
There are certainly, and I know for a fact there are other Christian nationalists, and probably.
Hey, and maybe even your black Christian nationalist friend is racist. I don't know.
He is, for sure.
He is? Okay. Is he the one? Wait, is he the one who was saying the N-word? Because come on, man. Come on.
No,
he's allowed to do that.
No,
right?
I would not be in business with someone who is a drug user. Unless it's weed. That's cool. Okay. We're cocaine.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm against biblical fundamentalism and racism and misogyny and being anti-women. I think is kind of fucking
not cool.
Played out.
All right, real quick. This is the clarification from the mod. You're not aligning yourself with people by agreeing on a topic, but when you don't know where those positions come from, you can unknowingly repeat harmful sentiments that do not logically align with your overall perspective. For example, look at blackface. I don't see any in front of me, but pretend we had one. While we can agree that it is something that is usually wrong to do, why exactly is it wrong? On paper, painting your face black shouldn't be seen as inherently harmful, but when you consider the history of blackface in America, how it was used as a form of racism, you then may change your opinion on whether it is appropriate to do in modern times. Just because an argument seems like it might be logical on paper does not mean it isn't perpetuating other underlying issues because of the surrounding history, aka who used it and why. This is almost done. When you repeat...
I just started putting black shit in my face. It's a fucking problem here.
When you repeat specific positions from people, no, you're not aligning with them, but it's important to know the history of the positions they hold so you can understand when it is damaging rhetoric or to avoid the same pitfalls others have not. Accusations of racism turn off the minds of people on the right, and promoting some of the more subtly harmful positions, like Stephen Wolfe, turn off the minds of people on the left. That is their whole comment. That was a lot. Do you need me to repeat any of it?
Thank you. No, I'm good.
Okay, well, I think what they're saying is, yeah, I can on paper say maybe there's nothing wrong with people aligning behind very great ideas like don't kill people that come from Christianity, but I would not take those from Stephen Wolfe.
Okay, well, my whole point is the way that you defeat extremists are by robbing them of their only good talking points.
I mean,
and I'm not willing to change my mind on this
but I don't think you're robbing Stephen Wolfe of his good talking points when you platform him and hardly push back on him. I think you are letting him spout a lot of things that a lot of people
was not,
in your audience
that is an
are going
improper
to attach to. This is what I
think.
Yeah,
like being anti-free speech, yes. Most of my Jordan Peterson fan audience who says he'd fucking die or you have a hunger strike.
You know what? And I know you're not lying now because your room's clean as fuck, and I appreciate that. Mine's not. It's
one of my
full of clutter.
Qualities.
Last one. And I'll let you go. Zetsui, once again, thank you so much for the $20. Thank you everyone for the chats, by the way. I haven't been saying thank you because we're in debate mode.
Fuck all of you left-wing fucking shills.
We believe things based on predictive outcomes. I don't know how my car works. I believe it does work because I successfully drive places. A gut feeling is you trying to predict outcomes when you can't articulate why. I agree with that definition, right. But what about it? Are you just trying to... I don't know if that clarifies anything on whether or not we agree with that. But yeah, a gut feeling does not have good predictive empirical evidence as to why it would happen. It's just a gut feeling. And I don't think... I want to say this. I don't want to write off gut feelings. A lot of times they could be right.
I think you need to go back to therapy. I think you hate gut feelings too much. I think you need to explore why.
No, my problem with therapy was that every gut feeling I had, the therapist said, that's good. And I was like, okay, but how do I know if it's good? You're just telling me it is because I've framed this in a way from my own experience.
Well, this is one of the problems. Your intuitions can be... Like, if you constantly lie... This is one of my things about karma. It's like, what happens when you lie? Like in fairly, mundane circumstances. Like, how much money do I owe you? $50. Instead of 20. When you just do that repeatedly over and over and over again for your whole life, well, you eventually get to a point where you literally can't distinguish reality from your own lies. And that's a form of hell. I think that's a form of hell.
Yeah, I agree. If you weave a web of
lies.
Hence
the karma thing. Now, do I have proof of that? I'll only know if karma's... Look, the only way I'll know if what my gut is telling me about the afterlife is when Mossad fucking puts a bullet in my head.
Listen, I'll say this. If I die before you, and there's a good chance I will, because, I'm on the West Coast near Texas.
You don't criticize Israel enough. I'm going to do it. I think I'm going to do a 9/11 research stream. Did Israel do 9/11 research stream?
Well, I'll
'Cause
say no. Look,
you know,
no, I
can I
want
be
to affirm
100%
your
honest with
belief.
you?
I want to affirm your belief before you do. I'll possess that little Roomba you got in the back there, and I'll do a little. I'll draw a dick on your floor, and that's how you know that there is an afterlife. Just so you know, I'm gonna do that for you. That's my.
Oh, when I die, you mean?
No, when I die, you'll still be alive. I'm gonna possess your Roomba, and I'll let you know like you were.
Oh, all
right.
right.
Yeah,
Oh,
because
okay,
I
cool.
can't give
It'd
you
be
a bet. I can't
yeah.
promise you that I'll give you money, but like I can do something that shows you that
Draw
you
a
were
dick,
vindicated.
yes.
Draw a dick. Yes.
Make sure it's circumcised too.
I don't know.
That's all I know. It's like in Interstellar when fucking Matthew McConaughey was like, Merv, you gotta be drawing a dick on my room.
Oh yeah, in the dust on your
it's
bookshelf.
real!
I'm drawing a
Yeah.
little circus. Everything you said about Israel was true. Don't go. The Mossad, they're waiting outside.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other?
That was all
Super
super chats. Final thoughts
All right.
on this.
Yeah.
I would like. Let me start off by saying,
Yeah.
I considered sending you my document before this to be like, look, I just
Good move not to. Good move not to.
Well, I don't know how it would have changed
I
things.
mean
all
that
much.
unironically. That was the right move not to.
I don't know how much it would have changed stuff, but it was more of this like, I don't, not like you
Could you
personally.
please still send me that document? I'd be actually very curious to
Oh,
read it.
sure.
Or we
I
can
mean,
talk about it next time.
Well, first of all, it's a collaborative thing. I'll send it to you after stream. I'll link it to you, and you can dissect it.
You don't have to. Or you could send me like
an abridged version.
I'm
sure.
down to talk again about the things like that are, you know.
Well, that's
sure
my
there's
final
other
thoughts.
things.
Is like, I'm in a cultural moment right now that a lot of people that are very close to me are suffering. I really don't like it. I want to fix it. I want to change people's minds, and I don't like your ideas. I don't like almost any of your ideas.
Okay, fair enough. So
and
maybe
I don't
it's best
think
that we do not. I would admire you for sticking to your principles. Like if you're saying, "Well, I platform."
I'm not saying I'll never
Stephen Wolf,
platform
you're
you
platforming
again
someone
in
who
my
platforms
life.
Stephen
I'm not
Wolf.
saying I'll never talk to you again.
And
in
you're
my
the
life. In
bigger
fact,
channel too, by the way. So
apparently,
you're more
we'll see.
problematic.
It'll change.
Be more
Like I don't
problematic
want to start a competition because if you get bigger than me, I'll be like, you know what? This is bad for the ideas, and that's when I'll make a video on you when you get big enough.
By the way, ultimately, everything I say is co-signed by JJ McCullough, and you can put that on the record and clip it, please, and send it to him. Tweet it at him.
Hey, did he ask you about cheesecake on Monday?
Cheesecake?
Yeah, did he ask you if you liked cheesecake? Because he asked me, and I was like, oh, maybe he's just eating cheesecake. But then I saw he did a whole poll on whether or not people preferred cheesecake or donuts, and I'm like,
No, I
oh,
don't recall him
you
asking
singled
about
me out of your whole audience. Anyway,
That's fair.
I don't like your ideas. I really don't. I really, really don't. And I'm not. I don't
you
know.
do. You just don't know it yet.
Maybe not. Maybe you're gonna convert. Maybe I'll be a radical centrist in a year. But I don't like your ideas, and it's not about you as a person. Because throughout all of this, despite what I said about you maybe you being popular and harmful, were you more popular? Or, I mean, even to the extent you are now, you don't seem like a bad person. I just think you're in the wrong spot, and I think that
Yeah,
were
well,
we
that's
friends,
how I know you're wrong.
Were
If you
we
don't think
friends
I'm a bad
before this?
person,
Well, maybe you are. No, sorry. Based on my current impression, I don't know.
I'm telling you
whether
I
or not.
am.
Okay, well, hey, when people tell you who they are, listen. Okay, maybe you are a bad person.
I am.
But I also don't think that I don't know how much
you
we
know
can
what?
get out of these conversations because I think we're just so far like in different realities of understanding what's important, how the world
That's fair.
works.
It's
So no matter how mad I
listen.
got at your ideas, though, I appreciate you came on here and talked about it. Oh, real quick, Inhale Crackers, thank you for the $2. Is asking if you're live. Are you live right now? Can he go to your chat? Can people-
No, I'm recording this.
Okay.
And with I hope to post it if that's acceptable with you.
Okay, and last good thing to say, $5. Thank you much, John Whitman. I really appreciate it. The unique, morally considered, but very poor informed view of PFJ.
Look at you, platforming fascists and getting your audience to. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, informed view of. Okay, I thought that implied that at least one person in your audience is like, I might check out PFJ and watch some of his videos. Because if that's true,
Well, here's the thing.
you're a terrible person.
I,
You're a worse
unlike
person
you,
than
I am going to take responsibility for anyone that goes to your channel after this because I'm putting your link in the description. If they want to go watch your stuff, they can.
Why would you do
I
that?
think because
You
I
think
think
my ideas are terrible, and you just said we
because
probably
I
won't
think
talk
I
again.
have fundamentally pushed back on what you have to say in a way that I hope convinces enough people that your ideas are bad. So I think that's
You know
very
what?
different from what you did with Stephen
That's-
Wolf. I think if anything, if I had, and this isn't advice from a bigger channel, this is just like, hey, because I think you can rationalize because I think you're not a maybe you are a bad person, but you're not
But
stupid.
hold on, you still disagree with my ideas, and yet you're being awfully cordial right now.
Well,
which
I
don't
want you to do
understand.
better things. I want the best outcomes for things, and I think if you at least push back a little harder on people that you, as you
This
claim,
is only
are too
convincing me
radical.
that I'm correct, because you started off hot, and now you're being a lot more acquiescence, which means I'm even
Well,
more
because I don't
doubling
at
down
this
in my
current
ideas.
moment in the conversation, I don't think shouting at you is going to change anything, and I think I've sufficiently shouted at you enough in this conversation. But I do think that maybe if you take anything I say even remotely to a T seriously, that you should push back a little bit. And you even seem to agree on that. And I just want to leave it on a like,
Would
hey,
you say I sufficient? Whether or not I'm right, do you think I pushed back sufficiently
on
against you in this conversation?
if I was bad, I think you push back. Well, you defended yourself. That's kind of different. You don't really know my ideas, and if anything, it seems like you kind of agree with them
No,
because
I
we
just
both
know,
would vote for
all I
Bernie.
know is you're suffering from Trump derangement syndrome.
Yeah, I think if anyone watches me, they'll know that I hate the liberal wine mob Trump derangement syndrome, and right now it's very much the opposite of that. It is much like, oh shit, they were right. It just took them 8 years. So
That's fair. I'm gonna call JJ right after we hang up and be
I
like,
was gonna call JJ after we hung up.
I can't believe you fucking
Platformed this
toy pill.
fucking liberal. Oh, did he tell you to talk to me?
I told him I was talking to you, or did he? No, someone someone had said that I should reach out to you, and then I saw they
Interesting.
you DM'd me,
FD
and
said
then
I should
told
reach out
JJ.
to you.
Correct. FD said I'm his favorite problematic white guy.
Yeah. Well, hey, I'm vying for S tier. All right. So you and me
You're
are.
not problematic enough. Okay?
Oh, you should watch some more of my stuff. That's the thing. If someone is problematic and fucking, all the liberal infighting that I get shit for has this problem, I think that should at least make you question just a little bit because, I love my misogyny, racism, and all that stuff, okay? It's all hilarious every time.
Nobody loves misogyny and racism more than I do.
No, because I love it more than you, okay? So let's not try to fight this
We'll
because
have
I'll
a
win.
competition.
All right, say the N-word right
Interesting.
now. Don't say it on live,
I already
please.
said it on my stream before, by the way.
Jesus, really?
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Okay. Oh, wait,
Depends
hold
what
on.
you mean by, depends what you mean by the N-word.
Before you nuclear, it's my N-word, nuclear. Oh, I have to give you a
Naysayer.
Trump nickname real quick.
I'm
I
seeing
Helen
your
Cracker
chat.
still wants
Ask
to give you
him-
money. Oh yeah.
Ask him
Oh,
if
you
there's a
got it.
reason he isn't streaming. Mind you, this is implying he doesn't want his audience to see
No,
this.
no, I disagree. Crackers, he just records these. Okay, he's gonna upload it, and
I'm
if
gonna
not,
upload it tomorrow
Yeah.
morning.
and it's gonna be me going, and it's gonna be him going. I'm the cool,
It's also
calm,
3 hours. So what I might
collected
do is
Jack,
I might just upload us of us arguing.
and not the
and
parts
then link-
where I'm reading super chats and we're having a great
Which
time.
let me ask
and
you a
I'm
question. Which would you
platforming
prefer?
You can
Which
upload
would you
whatever you
prefer?
want, man. I'm gonna upload everything up until this conversation's over to when it started. The live VOD is gonna have all of it.
I know. You're live streaming it. See,
Yeah.
I guess I can upload a 3-hour video. It's not a problem.
Why not? Why not?
I
Hey,
would probably
and
add timestamps tomorrow and then upload it Sunday.
hey, if you do, send them my way. No, I'm not going to timestamp this. I'm lazy. Well, except
Well,
for when I quit
we'll
my
be
job.
slightly off, and I'm gonna use language that you'll hate, like soy pill soys out at this point.
You've not seen me soy out. I will soy out in the future, and people
That's
will
fair.
see. it.
Oh, look, someone said I love Paul and I'm watching.
Who? Where? Ban him! Get him out!
Your
Get him
chat.
out of here! Get him out of here! Pesky
is
Paul!
problem.
Pesky Paul's coming into my chat, and I platformed him.
That's
He's not very good. We don't like him. Paul,
All right.
I don't not
Hey,
like you. I just don't like
it's a
your
great
ideas.
conversation.
I hope you see the light, and I hope I don't see your light. Which
I think
is
the
what you
light will
predicted.
make itself seen by you and I in its own time, in its own way. And I don't have any
Let's see.
evidence of that. I have no peer-reviewed studies that say that. But I mean this in the least unironic possible way. I really believe that.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for
Godspeed,
coming
sir.
on.
Peace.
That was coordinated. Wow.